Hey everybody, welcome to Twitch and Box Sports Talk. This is LSV for Life here at the Backstage Pass. Wrapping up the last 2 weeks of regular season here. Start off with one of our favorite segments, and that's What Made You Twitch? Should be an easy one for you, Twitch.
Yeah, I'm pretty biased. I said, but Pittsburgh coming away with the surprise solid road victory with a Detroit team, and we'll get to that game here later. I said, but entertaining, crazy ending, crazy finish, but more within the middle of that game, to me, was they got the win, but up still needing either one more win or a Baltimore loss before they clinched the division, and who I've said there was some nice. Yeah, DK Metcalf, for those who didn't know, that getting into an altercation with a fan and punching a fan, and it came down yesterday that most likely he appealed the decision, but right now he's got a 2-game suspension. So right down on the home stretch when Pittsburgh needs one more win, and I've been harping all year about how they really don't have a number 2 receiver. So it's kind of been committee with the tight end group and Washington and Smith, and they got Thielen back because they got him a little involved for a couple plays, but really don't have a solid number 1 at all. And DK's the guy that even opens it up for them. And so, playing a tough Cleveland team, I said that I don't take that game lightly on Sunday. Pittsburgh's in Cleveland, who would have a top-notch defense. Would love nothing else for Garrett to break the record and beat Pittsburgh and possibly hold them out. This is going to be one of their Super Bowls, so they do not have your one true number 1 receiver out there. It hurts. I said I understand that. I'm not sure what was actually said, but still,
He called him his birth name. Yeah. That's all it was.
Well, I think the whole reason why they get rid of George Pickens is because they want to crucify him over certain stuff.
How dare they get rid of a diva receiver and bring in a calm guy like DK Metcalf?
Right. And so, with the playoff spot and the division not wrapped up yet, and then potentially probably I'm going to assume he's going to lose that decision just because, regardless of what the fans said, regardless if he was a jerk or not, the NFL's going to protect the fans, and so not a good look. And I said not having him those last 2 games most likely, this makes me shake my head. Just still a pretty good position. Baltimore's got a tough game in Green Bay this weekend, so if they win that, then we automatically win the division. Doesn't matter. We can't change our positioning in the field anyway, so we would lock that 4 seed up with Baltimore losing. But if they do win, then that really puts the pressure on us beating Cleveland. Otherwise, it's all going to come down to that Week 18 matchup. So, and especially, sorry, then the last thing I'll say about this is especially over the last, as hard as I am on my own team, especially with the last 3 games against Baltimore and Detroit, surprisingly, and last week, and the Dolphins, so with our offense actually playing much better, playing at a much higher level, going into the playoffs, and then now you don't have your number 1 wide receiver. So,
yeah, very much so. Very Twitch-worthy thing. As soon as I saw it happen, I was like, "Yep, I know what Twitch is going to shoot Twitch about." That's crazy.
And if you don't pick the Steelers this week over the Browns, we're just shutting down the podcast and it'll just be the
have to find another
co-host, the box and special guest sports talk.
Yeah,
basically.
What about you, Big Willie?
My Made Me Twitch is from the Sunday Night Football game. Marlon Humphrey, DB for the Baltimore Ravens, had an outrageous non-pass interference call. He tackled the guy before the ball even got close. He actually grabbed both of his arms. He fell to the ground and then grabbed his legs and tackled him to the ground. And there was no flag thrown. Even the announcers, everybody has their own NFL officiating guru that they bring in and talk. And the guy on when they filmed him in or whatever, he's like, I don't know why they didn't throw the flag. That's about the most textbook pass interference call I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. No clue I didn't throw it. And granted, the Patriots ended up winning, so, it didn't hurt them, I guess, in the long run. But just a blatant call. Literally tackles him before the ball gets even close. And Marlon Humphrey, he's always been kind of the way he plays is, give the pass interference instead of the touchdown or the big play. You give the yardage compared to the big play or the touchdown. But he's clearly making contact before. He's clearly tackling him before the ball's even close. And just a terrible call. No call by the refs. And I'm not one to, big time criticize the refs all the time and always blame the refs. But it's absolutely outrageous, the no call. Even just as a football fan, how do you not call that at all? But that's what made me twitch this week. It was just
fair enough.
Bad officiating there on a game that didn't really affect me, but either way. LSV got something that made you twitch this week, other than the Chiefs' third string quarterback.
No, I mean that's no sense in having the state of the Chiefs anymore this year for the podcast. It's been a moment of reflection, really, for me over the last week. Not things that made me twitch, but maybe things that made me grateful. I saw a lot of great TikToks and videos of the memories between like Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and it's easy to get caught up in the things that don't go well during your season. But as somebody that's been watching the Chiefs for as long as I can remember, 10 years of greatness and domination, and really what I think are pretty good all-around guys out there on the field. I've enjoyed watching some of those memories pop up over the years of watching Kelce and Mahomes play together, knowing that this is it. I mean, that's not happening again for any foreseeable reason. I don't see them taking the field together again. So nothing that made me twitch, but just thankful for being alive to see the greatness that has come out of Kansas City. And then, of course, yesterday we get the announcement that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be coming to Olathe, coming on the Kansas side of the border. That's exciting. Was talking to our son tonight and said, I don't know that I'll go to another game after Christmas here in 2 days.
Sign game.
Yeah, the sign game, pay off my dad. I don't know that I'll go back to Arrowhead again, but I told Big Willie, fun fact about Arrowhead, the first game ever played at Arrowhead Stadium was August 12th, 1972, the day I was born. So if the first game was the day I was born and the last game I go to was on Christmas Day, be pulling for the Broncos. And, if that's my last game there, I'm okay with that. So I'm excited to see what happens over the next
With your
few
son on the field, though, how awesome is that?
Yeah.
Full circle moment.
Yeah, so definitely excited. He said, get there 2 hours before the game, come down there, try to get a photo shoot with me. And by God, I'm gonna wear some Bronco stuff for the game this weekend, or this Thursday.
Woo!
Yeah,
Come to the light side.
yeah, that's what makes me twitch. I'm wearing Bronco stuff for the first time in 30 years to Arrowhead. So,
Outrageous.
yeah.
But we're going to roll into our offensive and defensive player of the weeks. Offensive side of the ball, all kinds of big time players this week. Chris Olave had himself a great week. Jackson Smith-Njigba had himself a great week in that second half of the game after being shut down. Bijan Robinson, who went up for my honorable mention of the week. Bijan had himself 16 carries for 76 yards, another 7 receptions for 92 yards, and that one big 42-yard touchdown there for the Atlanta Falcons. But I do it co-players of the week because it's kind of hard to give flowers to a receiver when the quarterback's the one throwing the ball to him. But Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua are my offensive players of the week. Matt Stafford, 29 of 49, 3 touchdowns, 457 yards. Stafford's, again, playing MVP football. I mean, granted, they lost the game, but it wasn't necessarily him. It was other aspects of the game that really led to them losing there in overtime. Offensive player of the week, or my other player, is Puka Nacua, 225 yards on 12 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Just absolutely lights out football, stepping up big time with D. Adams without that hamstring injury. Probably out until he could have went for the game, but they know that, hey, we're making the playoffs either way, and this game isn't a win or go home game. It was a great game either way. I was really happy to watch it. But those are my offensive players of the week.
How many fantasy points was that? Was that 47 for Puka?
Yeah, Puka had 47 fantasy points.
Put you in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me and LSV are playing for the championship game of the
Rigged.
not even close to rigged. Did you see what the guy did that I played this week? He traded for Bijan Robinson, Chris Olave, and Jamar Chase, all in the same week, and I still beat him. So I like them apples.
Suck it.
That's how you build a team from the ground up.
I had 2 empty spots on my team, so that's how confident I am. So
He was ready.
not even filling seats on mine.
Yeah.
But Twitch, who's your offensive player of the week?
I like the Puka pick. I said, like Jalen Warren of the Steelers had a good week. Trevor Lawrence with a solid win. We talked about that. It's like Jacksonville be a sneaky good team. Sam Darnold having a strong second half. But, I'm actually going to go with the Monday night game. I'm going with Brock Purdy. After Brock Purdy having a good first 2 years, some injuries, kind of a sluggish start, and for the most part, Mac Jones coming in and playing pretty well in his absence. Niners now won 5 straight since Purdy's been back, and a really good performance again from Purdy, who's just been on fire and kind of flying under the radar because they play in the NFC West, and they're still only a game back of either one of those teams, but I don't believe they're going to catch them. But you have the 11-4 Niners with Brock Purdy on Monday night against Phillip Rivers, going 25-34, so another efficient performance for 295, 5 touchdowns and a pick, and only taking 1 sack, and then adding 11 more rushing yards. But Brock Purdy really, even with some injuries on both sides of the ball, really solidifying that offense and running like Shanahan's balanced offense. So it's like San Francisco is one of those teams where they're getting like Jacksonville and like none of the other teams going in like New England and Denver, who recently cooled off because they lost. But San Francisco going in hot, and the big part of that's because ever since Brock Purdy came back from injury, really solidifying. If there was, I don't think there was ever really any real question, but really putting a stamp on it, like he's the number one guy in San Fran. So I like Purdy. So
I did like the meme I saw out there of the pictures of Brock Purdy and Phillip Rivers back in 1999. Phillip Rivers in his prime and Brock Purdy's a sperm.
yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. Shout out Phillip Rivers. Again went out there, held his own, but his defense couldn't get us to save their lives. So, but when you have 2 backup corners and a backup safety, and you can sling the rock on him, and we saw that.
He looked actually halfway decent.
Yeah.
I don't put that game on him. Defense.
Nah,
I think he finished with almost 270.
Yeah.
277 career touchdowns. Yeah. He played hard. Then went in the locker room and yelled at the defense.
Yeah.
So I didn't come out of retirement for you guys to play like shit.
He's not wrong. Definitely wasn't really on him, but
But apparently he did.
rolling into defensive player of the week. My defensive player of the week is Bobby Wagner. 10 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 5 QB hurries. Bobby Wagner, I've mentioned him a couple times this year, just playing lights out at the young age of 35, playing linebacker there for the Commanders. In a season that doesn't really matter anymore, still just all over the field. It seems like his stats don't really show how much he was around the ball. I mean, the Eagles couldn't run the ball in the second half, hardly at all, just because anytime they try to run, Bobby Wagner would stuff it or make it cut back to somebody. And, those are stats that people don't really track, but if you fill the gap and make the running back cut back and your D lineman gets a tackle, you're the one that caused it. But I mean, obviously you don't track that, but just do your job football, and that's exactly what Bobby Wagner plays. And he's also just kind of I don't even know how to word this. He's unk status. He wears that dark visor all the time. So everybody, he doesn't care about the fines. He's just out there playing Bobby Wagner football, which is awesome. So if B-Wag wants to, fake retire and then come play for the Broncos, I'd be more than happy to buy a Bobby Wagner Broncos jersey.
There you go.
Even though he was part of that Legion of Boom that beat us back in the day, I'd forgive it all if he came to Denver.
Yeah.
But Twitch, who's your defensive player of the week?
I've got kind of a new candidate. I've got Blake Cashman, linebacker, 8-year pro for the Vikings. Finished with a 16-13 barn burner against the 2-13 Giants, but had 16 tackles, 7 solo, a couple quarterback hurries, and so just was all over the place. And Minnesota was 7-8, not going to make the playoffs, but really playing a lot better. It's hopefully something for Minnesota to build off of at the end of this year. Same as the last 2 years, that division next year is going to be really interesting, I think. Well, obviously, it depends on the offseason and stuff, but I expect Detroit to hopefully be back. And with Chicago only going to add players with the salary cap space, and they've overachieved this year, and the Packers. So, but anyway, I went with Blake Cashman for having 16 tackles and 7 solo, and was all over the field.
Nice. Yeah, great. Had a couple more teams clinch a playoff spot this week. Went from 2 last week to now we have 10 this week. The Seahawks clinch a spot, the Bears, the Eagles, and the 49ers on the NFC side. The AFC side, the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Chargers, and the Bills. So there's only 4 spots left. So our last 2 weeks got probably 5 teams fighting, or 6 or 7 teams fighting for these 8 spots left, or these 4 spots left. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out down the stretch here. On the injury report this week, kind of a shorter list, knock on wood. Gardner Minshew, backup quarterback for the Chiefs, tore his ACL, out for the season as well. So Hope Minshew gets better, goes to sign somewhere, and can watch him play football again. He's always fun to watch. And then Lamar Jackson out with a back injury, likely to be shut down the rest of the season with his back injury. Interested to see what comes of that. Had like a weird twisting injury that happened where big guy landed on his back and he was hurt, and then didn't really come back. Snoop Huntley played, and then he went back in, but he's questionable this week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The guy that's been dealing with injuries all year. I've heard some rumors that this Lamar might be shipped out Baltimore if something doesn't happen. If something happens there, if they don't make the playoffs or don't finish respectably here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there in Baltimore, which is a team starting the season I don't think anybody thought would be in this situation of, oh, wow, there's a chance that either our quarterback or our head coach is gone, which I doubt either one happened, but it's a very good possibility out there for sure. Myles Garrett, 21.5 sacks now, inching closer to that, breaking that record. Got half a sack on Josh Allen. So he was close. He was close a bunch of times, but Josh Allen is just Josh Allen, I guess. That's all you can really say about that. Couple interesting takes here. We already touched on DK Metcalf, but DK Metcalf lost his appeal, so he's going to miss the last 2 games. He loses $500,000 in salary, and then he gets voided $45 million in guarantees. So, that's $45.5 million.
I'm sure it made him twitch.
Yeah, he's probably regretting his decision. Excuse me. Tua. I'm not gonna try to say his last name. I'm just stumbling all over that. Tua gets benched in Miami. Quinn Ewers played this last week, obviously, about what we expected. Played decent enough. He played decent, but nothing. You don't think he's an NFL quality starter and needs to grow into it. But what do you see happening with the Tua situation, especially because they signed him to that mega $1 million contract last year? So I think the cap numbers were if they cut him or release him, it'd be like $47 million next year, 52, and then I think that third year would be at 60 or 62. So big QB numbers. You can't just eat that on the chin. I mean, Denver did it with Russ Wilson, and it worked out for us, knock on wood. But also, we had a bunch of young guys, and we got lucky and hit on our quarterback and a couple of young studs. But interesting to see what happened with Tua. What do you guys think is going to happen down there with Tua and Mike McDaniel? Because Mike McDaniel, front office, came out and said that he will return next year as the head coach.
I didn't know that, too.
Yeah, well,
I'm glad, though.
Yeah, he deserves it. Obviously, a shit season.
Yeah, a slow start, but came out and did what he
They won
needed to
5
do.
out of 6 up until the last 2 weeks. I said, but with a lot of injuries and not having Tyreek Hill, and then Tua as your quarterback, because I'm not a Tua believer. So
Yeah, not at all.
I think Tua will be gone, though. I think they'll go another direction. They'll eat some of that.
Yeah.
Try to get some
Trade
back or
him
trade it.
Yeah.
And some other team take part of that. I don't see.
I don't know where he'd go to be a starter
yeah.
other than Minnesota. Because Minnesota's always, we've seen what Kevin O'Connell's done with guys like Tua in the past of, these guys are bust, they're not going to work out, and he goes up there to Minnesota and balls out. But also, I think J.J. McCarthy's his guy ever since the meme came out. He's been playing better.
So that I was going to say real quick. I just saw when you were talking about the Metcalf appeal that J.J. McCarthy is out this week.
Yeah,
actually.
J.J. McCarthy, I forgot he broke his hand,
Yeah.
hairline fracture. So they're going to start that guy who threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
So.
I can't imagine anybody picking up to a.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's that QB desperate that they're going to eat that contract.
I don't see it. I don't know what you do with that guy.
Unless it's a Denver-Pittsburgh situation where Denver eats 90% of that contract and they
Or
don't have
Deshaun
to-
Watson in Cleveland. I think you're just stuck.
Yeah, same concept. Just
The
he's
fallout
got-
of that, though, is that's going to hurt your franchise for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, you remember they passed on Herbert to
Yeah.
take him, and we've seen what Herbert's turned up to, and turned out to be out there in LA, and then so very interesting quarterback situation happening there. Kind of like the Deshaun Watson situation a while back. Just interesting what you do from this situation.
And that's the problem with those quarterbacks that really hadn't proven themselves to be a franchise quarterback. We got all kinds of antsy. I don't want to say that Mahomes set that pace, but everybody wanted to go after that type of big money.
Yeah.
And
Sign 'em early
You
so
were
they don't-
signing people early and just a hope and a prayer that they would be your guy. And then when that doesn't work out,
now you're stuck here.
yeah, you've way invested in somebody that, everybody else is looking at that, and they're not going to go buy that mortgage from you.
Right.
So
I mean, shout out Deshaun Watson as well, getting that fully guaranteed $260
Absolutely.
million.
Yeah.
I mean, just resetting the bar, and we've seen what he's done there. Nothing, like at all. He's played, I think, 6 games total. Like,
So I think that'll be a lesson learned moving forward with how much money do you dump into that one player, because you have to be able to financially understand the scope of the game of what that does for the rest of your player picks over the course of the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see anybody taking him, but I don't know what to do with it at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean,
I think they're gonna have to eat it.
yeah, he's
Especially because
definitely
McDaniel, after he's like, you think McDaniel wants to go back out there and have his, you have another 7 and 10 year, like you're gone. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not having him be my.
Yeah,
I'll
and
take my
especially
chance
now that
with
you
somebody
benched him
else.
now,
Yeah.
there's no going back. You're not going to,
No.
try to. There's not really much to mend that bridge if you're bailing on a guy this late in the season. Another question, interesting. So the Buccaneers lost this week to the Panthers, so now the Panthers control that NFC South destiny when it went out and they're in. But this brings a big question that's been kind of rumbling around that is interesting because they're good, but they've been good, but also they haven't been great. Does Todd Bowles keep his job down there in Tampa Bay? And obviously a good defensive mind took over for Bruce Arians when he retired, but they haven't done anything since. And they've had pieces. We've seen the pieces they have this year. We've seen the pieces they had last year, and they started hot last year or this year, and then we see what they are now. They've lost 7 of their last 8, I think, or just losing out, man.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think is going to happen with Todd Bowles there in
I
the
think
Tampa area?
I think it depends on what happens the last 2 weeks, honestly. I don't know who else. It's kind of like with Tomlin and Harbaugh. It's like, who else do you go out and get? But when you have guys in Seattle and Houston and the Rams, like that coordinators looking for the next Ben Johnson in Chicago, somebody like that. Like you kind of touched on, I mean, defensive mind. I said, and like Tampa Bay, in the middle of the year, this had so many injuries, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think it has to do with whatever happens these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have a great year there in North Carolina, so I mean, it's also an interesting coaching situation that we might break down at some point when more information comes out. But
John Gruden,
yeah, I mean,
bring him
Gruden
back to he's been
come back to Tampa, be interesting there. Any other storylines you guys want to hit on, or any interesting things you saw this weekend that you thought was worthy of hitting it? Other than, I definitely have to announce this one: Deshaun Watson will not be active this season for the Cleveland Browns. Stefanski came out and said that, so there will not be a Deshaun Watson signing.
just throw away the season.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I don't have anything. As we start wrapping things up, going into the last couple weeks of the 2025 season, now it's all about those last few teams securing their position and to see what that seedings looks like. There's still a lot of wiggle room in there in the AFC and the NFC. So some good games here coming up for sure this weekend and next.
Yeah, very much so.
I feel like the AFC is all but decided, other than us and
Yeah.
Baltimore, and then especially if Lamar Jackson ends up being gone. But
Yeah,
I feel
interesting.
like the 3 wild cards are pretty much decided. It's going to be either Buffalo, unless they catch New England, and then the Chargers and the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Not the Chargers.
The Texans, the Jags have the 3 seed right now. So.
Yeah, I meant to say the Texans.
Yeah. So it's either one of the AFC South teams, one of the AFC West, and
Yeah.
the Chargers,
Yeah.
or if the Broncos lose out and the Chargers take the AFC West, then it'd be one of those teams, and then the Buffalo, obviously. Buffalo,
Yeah.
I think Buffalo is solidified as the 5 seed.
Yeah.
Or I feel like that 5 seed for sure goes to either New England or Buffalo,
Yeah.
and then the 6 seed goes to the AFC West team.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The AFC, obviously, there's still paths for the 49ers to still get the 1 seed. The Seahawks, they play the Seahawks. The Seahawks have it right now. The Rams are in it still, but with that loss, now that they're head up, it'll go down to point differential if it happens the way it does. But taking
How
this,
crazy, sorry, but how crazy is that like the 3 teams we always talk about from the NFC West all have it with 2 weeks left to go in the season, all have a legitimate chance
yeah, to get the 1 seed.
to get the 1 seed in the conference. So it
would
just
be
goes
crazy.
to show.
Yeah.
NFC West is legit. arguably, I don't even think it's arguably anymore, is the best division of football right now. Because, we talked about the AFC North and, the injuries and all this stuff happened this year. AFC West, and then you see what happened with the Chiefs, so they're not really in it. But, having 3 teams in contention for the 1 seed is absolutely crazy.
Right.
So, and the NFC North holds its own, but the Lions being down the way they are is not as much. But
Yeah, because in the preseason we had 3 teams in the AFC West making the playoffs
yeah,
back in
I
July.
thought that's the way it was going to shake out. I was not
Right.
going to say that.
And the NFC North.
Yeah. And then-
Well, we didn't have the Bears, but we didn't.
yeah, didn't think the Bears were going to be this good, but it's still
Right.
crazy how it worked out.
Right.
And it's good. It's good to see. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. But it's good to see the NFC West not eating itself, like we talked about, where they all beat each other, and then one of them misses out.
Yeah.
And right now, it's looking like it's actually all 3 have a really good chance of making it in.
Yeah.
But rolling into our question of the week, Twitch and Box question of the week this week is, what's the greatest rivalry in the NFL? Obviously, there's good ones out there. You obviously got the Bears, Packers, Steelers, Ravens, Broncos, Chiefs. Just 'cause I'm biased there, but there's tons of good rivalries out there. But what's some of your favorite rivalries out there? Obviously, we know Twitch is going to go with this one. Twitch,
100%.
Nah, lead us off
100%.
here.
I think the 2 other ones that honorable mention is, you have the Chiefs, Raiders, but the other 2 that I think of is like the oldest rivalry being the Chicago and Green Bay, and then the other one being Philadelphia and Dallas, between all those NFC East rivalry games.
Yeah.
You could have all those teams, Philly, New England, or Philly Giants, or any one of those. I said, but I'm biased. I would say, even though the Ravens didn't come into existence to 95, 96, I would say Pittsburgh. I'm biased, and maybe it doesn't carry the same thing, because even people now would probably say the Seahawks, Niners, even.
Yeah.
But I would say Pittsburgh, Baltimore, just because from when they first, up until the last 5-6 years, sorry. Okay, so not the last 5 or 6 years, because we haven't been relevant in 10, but just because historically, if you literally look at the last 30 years, and even specifically the last 10 years, if you look at points against, points for against each other, head to head, it's literally neck and neck. They're within literally points and yards and time of possession. It's crazy. And most I forget what it is, 21 of 25 games or something like that within a field goal or something like that. Those games always come right down to the wire, including 2 weeks ago was a 4-point game. And then back in the day, so when you go back to, and you can go back if you want even older for those Green Bay and Dallas games. That's another one that's non-divisional. That's an old school rivalry. Is Green Bay Dallas. I want to mention that one, but just back when you had Roethlisberger and Polamalu and guys like that going against Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and those guys, I said it was usually whoever won that game was going to be a 1 or 2 seed with New England and win the division, and both teams were usually a 10-3, 11-3. The game used to be, if not both, at least one of those games used to be a Saturday night game every year. So maybe it's lost some of its luster. I don't feel like it is. And I said either one of those teams, including my own, I don't feel like it's going to the Super Bowl. But as far as just best rivalry games, you take the record, I don't know how many times we've had injuries or they've had injuries, and they're sitting at 5-10, but they beat us. I said that is one rivalry where it doesn't matter what the records are; it's always close. A lot of hate, but also a lot of respect. 2 teams built very similar, so tough defense, hard smash mouth, punch in the mouth football. So that's my favorite rivalry. I admit I'm biased, but
Not my favorite rivalry, but one of my favorite ones to watch was Brady and the Patriots and the Colts and Manning. That was for a decade where the AFC West lied, and obviously Tom had the upper hand in that. But that was always the one that you feel like it's going to roll through. That for an AFC Championship game, from a personal standpoint, my favorite rivalry with Chiefs would be probably Raiders, just because there's so much hatred there. Yeah. There was a time when we both sucked so bad that I think we put our bygones in the past and just said, man, we both suck. And so then to watch the Chiefs come out on top of that AFC West for a decade, that kind of, muffled that, I think, as far as a rivalry, because they were beating everybody. So I'm more curious to think into the future what that AFC West rivalry is going to look like, and with the Broncos starting to get some things right over the last couple of weeks and coming out and playing. I think the Broncos got a lot of things that they still need to figure out to be like that dominant team in the AFC West. I mean, I think that the Chiefs are going to come back and they're going to figure out what is it that they need to really secure some protection for Patrick Mahomes on the offensive line, some things defensively. They obviously have some questions about where are they at with the running game. I didn't hate Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt, but they just weren't productive this year. And when you look at some of those teams, like on my fantasy team, I have Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. Those were guys that get the ball. They're in 80, I think they said last night, 82 to 87% of the plays. So, I mean, if you have a running game like that, that takes a lot of pressure off of Patrick Mahomes. But they've got a lot of things that they need to figure out in the offseason. And as I listened to 610 Country all the way down to Pittsburgh and back last week, that's all everybody talked about was where do they need to go in this offseason to get that figured out. And there's a lot of different conversations about what that is. But I think that in the AFC West, everybody's still going to be battling it out except for the Raiders. I mean, so I think that that's going to be some great division rivals games for years to come. I mean, because I think Bo Nix is going to continue to get better. I think that is being under Sean Payton, they're going to continue to figure out ways to help him improve. And you got Justin there that's still, going to be relevant for the Chargers. But that's what I'm kind of curious to see is where does that rivalry really pick up? Because that hasn't been any distinctive rivalry in the AFC West against anybody personally. But if you have two teams that are just that dominant, I think that's where we thought it was going to be this year. It would be the Broncos and the Chiefs battling out for the division. The game on Christmas could be playing for implications on who wins the West, who gets the number one seed. Yeah. And Kansas City fell up way short this year, but I'm hoping they regroup and maybe that'll be the next great division rivalry that we see coming down the stretch for the next decade.
Yeah, very much so. If I had to go, obviously the Broncos Chiefs I've always enjoyed just because it's more personal because, I'm a Broncos fan and I'm surrounded by Chiefs fans, so it's always been personal. But if I had to go with my favorite rivalry to watch, and this is obviously recently biased for sure, but the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen saga that we've got to watch this last bit has been amazing just because, the Bills will beat them in the regular season and then Mahomes will have a crazy playoff game. Obviously everybody talks about the 13 seconds of coming back and beating the Bills when they thought they'd beat them in Arrowhead. So obviously that's going to be a fun thing to watch, even with the Chiefs kind of being down, seeing Mahomes is still going to bring his A game for Josh Allen. And I think that's kind of our new era of Peyton and Brady or any of those games.
And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be Joe Burrow. That was a conversation a few years ago that you would have had with Cincy, but Cincy just hasn't been able to figure this out. And Joe doesn't even want to. And Burrow doesn't even want to be there at this point, so that kind of gets you
Pittsburgh, baby.
Yeah,
so
be
that
interesting.
kind of goes, well, that's one less conversation about what that rivalry is in the AFC.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think is this where we watch Lamar Jackson kind of fizzle out of that conversation too?
Is where
the last two greats in the AFC are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and then. Bo Nix has got a long way.
Yeah, there's same thing with Justin Herbert. There's just a lot of things that they have to do still to get into that conversation. But we've seen, and granted, Allen doesn't have any Super Bowls, but he's been there.
Yeah.
He hasn't been to the Super Bowl, but he's been in positions to get to the Super Bowl so many times. But I think another rivalry that is it's probably in its last era here that we'll probably see, but I've always enjoyed the Matthew Stafford Seahawks rivalry because, Matthew Stafford, obviously Super Bowl champion quarterback, crazy quarterback. And then, even when the Seahawks even had Geno Smith, there was always great games, so that defense was always humming around. And now, we saw what Sam Darnold did, and they're 1-1 against each other. But, and this is probably Stafford's last run here that we're going to see. Obviously, they're priming up for a deep playoff run and maybe a Super Bowl run. So, it's interesting to see there. But, there's tons of great rivalries. Obviously, the AFC or the North is obviously a good one. with Pittsburgh and pick your team. When the Bengals are hot, it's fun to watch. And it feels like it's more personal. The NFC East is always fun because everybody hates the Cowboys, but I feel like the Eagles are equally as hated. So, and then obviously like Patriots and Buffalo is always a fun one to watch too, because even when the Patriots were rolling with Tom and they were hot, the Buffalo might just fuck around and beat them once.
Miami always.
And same thing. New England in Miami is probably one of my favorite games to ever watch, just because who knows what's going to happen. Obviously, we've had like that one play where Gronk was out there on defense and missed the tackle, and they did it like the year before off a punt return. And it's always just a fun game to watch. That when you know it's on TV, you're like, okay, I probably should tune into that one.
Well, and this is going to be interesting for the AFC North too, because if Joe picks up and leaves shop, Aaron Rodgers is obviously your turn around and try to salvage what you have already invested in your team. What are they going to look like next year? And, I don't think that Lamar's he's on the back end of his career too. And so now with some injuries there, as we've seen with him this year, the AFC North could be just complete crap growing into 2026.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that one will shake out for sure. I'm going to recap some games this week. There's some great games on. None better than the Thursday Night Football game, the Rams-Seahawks. But we're also going to hit on the Broncos-Jags, the Steelers-Lions, the Bears-Packers, and the Patriots-Ravens, and the Colts-49ers. So we're going to start off with the Rams-Seahawks first. Rolling into our recapping the games of last week. This went down as probably the best Thursday Night Football game of the year. In my opinion, Thursday Night Football has had some misses, but this one was definitely a hit. The Seattle Seahawks get the overtime win over the LA Rams, 38-37. Talked about Matt Stafford earlier, 3 touchdowns, 457 yards. Kyren Williams and Blake Corum combined for 124 yards on the ground. And then Puka Nacua, 12 for 225 and 2. It's just outrageous. On the Seahawks side, Sam Darnold, 2 interceptions early, but 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker hit 100 yards and 1 touchdown with a long of 55. That one long run off the right was a great run. Haven't seen that out of Kenneth all year. And then Jackson Smith, 96 yards and a touchdown, with Kenneth Walker catching 3 for 64. But this game really came down to the Seahawks. The Rams letting the Seahawks get back into it with momentum and being at home. The 12th man seemed kind of dead there at the end of the first quarter. And then Cooper Kupp had the fumble. And it seemed like ever since that fumble, they just bounced back. Jackson Smith had 0 receptions in the first quarter, or in the first half. And they came back 96 yards and catches the game-tying touchdown. But this is I texted the group chat right before it happened, but I said, I effing hate Sam Darnold. I hope he never starts in the NFL again. And then as I send the text, Sam Darnold throws a deep ball after the Rashid Sneed touchdown. And I said, okay, I take it back. Because he had 5 fantasy points up to that point. And I was like, I hate this guy. He's going to lose me my fantasy championship or my fantasy playoff. But a great game to watch, fun back and forth. Went down late. LSV texted me middle of the third quarter, said, I don't want this to go to overtime, but I'm going to make another drink anyways.
Yeah.
He did, and we stayed up and watched it. But pretty even. The Rams had more first downs. The Rams had more plays. They had 40-26 time of possession, but really that Sneed punt return really just flipped that game on its head. And ever since then, the Seahawks got rolling and got a crucial stop, and then went into overtime. And then Sam Darnold put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. What was that lateral pass that got deflected?
Yeah, and really the 2-point that was a backwards pass, so it was counted as a lateral, and then got picked up by Charbonnet in the end zone when nobody was going for the ball.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was
casually
a complete pass.
bends down and picks it up. They're like, wait a second, let's take another look at this. I think that's a fumble.
Yeah. I mean, just crazy. Sean McVay wasn't happy about that one. Obviously, you're not going to be happy about that one, especially when you can't get full explanation on the field. Because now it's a live NFL game, so you can't spend that much time. But, yeah, just amazing game to watch. I was very happy. Tuned into that one.
He's also happy they put up 92 points on Thursday Night Football in his fantasy football league.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was quite nice, especially because of what the other person did trying to beat me, and I beat him anyways. So.
No, that was a great game. Of all the Thursday night games, I think that's definitely the best one. I mean, it's hit and miss when you're trying to put out your NFL schedule and you're trying to branch out to as many different networks and platforms to show games. It's all about making money, and I know that's frustrating for football fans that how many different things do I have to subscribe to be able to watch the games, but to be able to watch a great game on Thursday Night Football was a breath of fresh air. That game was exhilarating to the end. Listen, I'm like, man, I need to go to bed, but I'm not missing any of this. This is going to be fantastic.
Well, especially after how close the last game was, and we talked about it last week. It's exactly what it was. A chance for whoever wins that game most likely wins the division. Really good chance, probably 2 of the top 3 favorites in the NFC to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and like it was exactly that. Like whoever wins, like sorry, rewind that. But in a game where it's exactly what you want to see, like on paper, and it lived up to the hype as far as like 2 teams fighting for that 1 seed, and like you kind of touched on, it's, on the Rams side, numerous missed opportunities. It's 30-14, and even after even after Seattle comes storming back, they still had other opportunities. They missed a field goal with 3 minutes left to go in the game. Got stalled 2 other times at midfield after 2 other drives started promising. So numerous chances, and just another loss for the Rams, like just kind of sloppy at the end of the game. We saw that against the Eagles. We saw that that game against the Niners the first time that they lost to them. Was like, and they could have lost the first time they played the Seahawks. So for an offense for 3.5 quarters that you said, like, the numbers don't lie with Stafford and Puka, like putting up 470 yards, but at the end of the game, just drive stalling out 3 or 4 different times. But if you're Seattle, obviously, see the Rams winning the first game, pretty much all but win the division. If they lose, and to be down 30-14, like it goes from a close type ball game to where the Rams finally get some separation to go up by 2 scores for the first time, and then from, I think it was 8 minutes left to go in the game to about 5 minutes to go, and 3 minutes, next thing you know, including that 2-point conversion, they get the big play, they get a 3-and-out from the Rams, get the ball back, and another. So from there, it just seemed like Seattle had all the momentum, but they said the same thing. The Rams kind of stall out, but they miss a field goal. But kudos to them. Like I said, the Rams being the first team because of the NFL rules changing for the regular season now to where everybody gets a shot no matter what. The Rams become the first team ever to score a touchdown in overtime and score a touchdown first and lose the game. But definitely, like, we can go on and on. We've talked about this all year. So, but just again, how Dan Campbell started going for it on 4th downs, how it used to be so rare. Now it seems like everyone's going for it at midfield. I said, but definitely took some cojones going for it on the 2-point conversion to win the game. So that's a huge win for Seattle.
Yeah.
Just to stay focused, to come back when they were down, when they were kind of sputtering on offense, and then to turn around and figure that out and get plays from all their guys, from Kupp to obviously Nelson Smith-Njigba to Walker to just guys all over the place. And like I said, Seattle still, with other than they gave up the touchdown, but they also had to stop the Rams, I believe, 2 times before that, and then the field goal. So like 3 out of the 4 last drives. So like bend don't break defense. Like that was probably one of the, I don't want to say worst performance because the Rams are that legit. It's a divisional game, but Seattle's that's a huge win for Seattle. For those who didn't think that they were in the same, they didn't believe that they were in that same realm as the Rams. Now they're in the inside track, and with some home games left, I think they have 1-1 left.
I think they're
But because they got a tough one, fairly tough one against Carolina this weekend. And then they finish off the year with the Niners, but control their own destiny. And if Darnold can not turn the ball over like I said in the second half, I think Seattle could be the favorite. I still think the Rams are the favorite, but it lived up the game and lived up to the hype, and not just the best Thursday night game, but definitely one of, if not the best games. At Chicago, Green Bay this year, and that Baltimore, Buffalo, even though they end up, Baltimore ended up stinking the rest of the year. That first game of the year, there's been obviously some other great, crazy games this year, I said, but that was up there with the best of them for sure. Denver with a couple of them, Green Bay and a couple of those games. But
rolling into our next game, another overtime thrower, obviously not as high scoring. The Chicago Bears get an overtime win over the Green Bay Packers, 22-16. Jordan Love goes out with a concussion. He's supposed to be eligible to return to play by Sunday, but he might not if something gets a hitch. Concussion protocol, Malik Willis will play. Malik Willis still came out and balled out, though, like he did last year when he came out and played. 121 and 1 touchdown. Josh Jacobs obviously is still dealing with that knee injury, so he still had 12 carries, but he's load's kind of taken off of him. Emmanuel Wilson, 14 of 82. Romeo Dobbs catching a touchdown pass in there with tight end Luke Musgrave, 38 yards. The Bears really seemed like they were almost kind of down in this game the whole time, but then I think they realized at halftime, oh, hey, we're at home. We should probably win this one. And they did again in overtime. Caleb Williams, 250, 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, 58 yards with Monogany, another 50 yards on the ground. Another great game by the undrafted rookie. DJ Moore, 97 yards and a touchdown, stepping up big time with the other 2 top receivers being down. But this game, great defensive battle. The Packers were in it the whole time. Time of possession was 38 to the Packers and 26 to the Bears, so relatively close there. The Bears had 10 penalties for 105 yards, though, which I think is kind of a big story that, the Bears have really not been like that all year, but kind of got stuck here in this game. But I think the biggest story coming out of this game is obviously the Jordan Love concussion, being out. Malik Willis obviously can do it. LaFleur is really great at calling plays for his quarterback who's in. We saw that last year when Malik Willis came in. He came out and balled out, and everybody forgets that Malik Willis is the first-round talent quarterback, and then Tennessee did what Tennessee does to quarterbacks and shipped him out and said, oh, hey, get out of here.
Cannon.
Yeah, he's got an arm. He's mobile. He's like Lamar Jackson-esque of running around making plays. But
and still a question mark without Micah Parsons there.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
I feel like
the
that's
last
really the
2 weeks. It's going to be the tell of what happens with Green Bay, probably.
very much so at 9-5-1. Chicago goes back and takes that 2 seed over right now at 11-4. So Chicago has their own destiny in their hands, and I think they kind of solidified themselves as a Super Bowl contender in this one. Obviously, the Packers had injuries, but everybody's banged up at this point, and beating them the way they did, and Caleb Williams basically throwing the exact same pass he did 2 weeks ago against the Bears, or against the Packers, they got intercepted.
Yeah.
Throwing the exact
This
same
one,
pass.
he threads it in there. And
Yeah, he threads it in there perfectly to get the win in overtime to DJ Moore, but
That was a dime.
it was, just perfect ball placement. Put it only where his guy could catch it.
still made his luck.
Yeah. To me, my biggest thing from the game is that you can talk about Love and Willis and those guys, so we'll get to that in a minute. But to me, for Chicago, being up a half game on Green Bay, and even in years that Chicago was good with Brian Urlacher and some of those other guys, for whatever, like Green Bay's had Chicago's number, obviously. And so it looked like it was just more of the same for Green Bay, like when it came down to a meaningful game that Green Bay was going to get the win. Like Greg just kind of said, that I do think it was a little bit of luck, but that's why they play the game. I said, for those who didn't watch the game, I said, definitely a playoff atmosphere, like divisional rivalry, but like you could tell the energy level. And to me, if the Bears would have lost, especially if the Bears would have lost that game, that would have been my biggest takeaway was the penalties by the Bears.
Yeah.
Especially the first drive, they gave up 2 personal fouls, like giving up 30 yards and leading to an early field goal. But I don't know how many times, like the hit, and granted it was the right call, and I don't think it was egregious, but the hit on Love, I said, but things like that would have been third down, or it was in the red zone, or so it wasn't just the penalties; it was when the penalties occurred in a premium game, and premium moments, and so like that would have been the talk of the game. But kudos to the Bears for hanging in there. So they get the onside kick. They I just thought of another thing that almost made me twitch. And I don't want to go off on a tangent. I said, but the only thing I'll say is when there was 2:15 to go in the game, and it was still 16-6, and they ran it all the way down to almost the 2-minute warning, and then on the other side with only 2 timeouts, could have saved you 46. I get that with the wind conditions, what they were on Saturday, it was super windy. You got to make sure you make the kick first, and Carlos Santos is kind of like,
Iffy.
Yeah, but to me that was one thing. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time just on that, but you have 2 minutes left and 2 timeouts, and then you don't run the play in 15 seconds. But it didn't end up mattering because then they got the onside kick and 2 good drives by Caleb Williams, 2 good darts. It definitely felt like the first half Chicago was moving the football, but just couldn't finish drives. But then they kept with it. So kudos to Ben Johnson and those guys, and like I said, for Chicago being the little brother brother to Green Bay for years. What a huge win! A gift for Bears fans right before Christmas. So, yes, and he said especially the last one being an absolute dime for Green Bay. I think what you're kind of seeing now is, they were a top 5 defense even last year, and there was plenty of mention of it, how even on Saturday they'd only give up 6 points going into the first 58 minutes of the game, and they're just yards after the catch are just non-existent with Green Bay on historical levels for what it's worth. But I bring that up because they're in a close game and they're even leading in Denver last week, or they're beating Chicago. They need that closer, and where's Micah Parsons? That's why they got Micah Parsons. They didn't have anybody. Both those guys had time to throw, whereas that's why you bring in a guy like Parsons. So definitely feeling the remnants of that. It'll be, like you said, it'll be interesting and huge to see. Packers are going to make the playoffs, but whether Love goes this week or not. But on the flip side for Green Bay, Malik Willis coming in there with the division on the line in a divisional game, night game, prime time, and absolutely, I thought he played really well.
Yeah.
So maybe auditioning for other jobs next year. Speaking of which, maybe he'll end up in Miami. I doubt it, but that was my 2 biggest takeaways. Like I said, it would have been the penalties for the Bears, but the Bears, like I said, with a little bit of luck, but with the onside kick, but hanging in there, moving the ball on Green Bay, and then Green Bay just not having Micah Parsons the last 2 weeks against against Denver and Chicago, where they need to get a stop and would have ended the game in either one of those games, and they got no pressure. That was my biggest takeaway. And they said, of course, then the Love injury.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see where the Packers would go from here. Rolling into a couple more games to recap here. Jaguars beat the Broncos 34-20. Bo Nix, 28-47, 352 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception to seal it. R.J. Harvey, 50 yards and a touchdown in there. Cortland Sutton, 6 for 86 and a touchdown. And then Harvey, second in the team, 71 yards through the air. Trevor Lawrence, on the other hand, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns. Travis Etienne, 50 yards. And then Parker Washington, kind of that third-string gadget guy that they've had. 6 receptions for 145 yards and a touchdown. So the Broncos defense couldn't get a stop in the red zone. They went 5 for 5. The Jags went 5 for 5 in the red zone against the Broncos, which the percentage before that had been 39%. 39% in the red zone up to that point. So interesting to see how Vance Joseph addresses that. I mean, the Broncos still had 5 sacks. All great plays all over the field defensively, just couldn't get a stop when it really mattered down there in the red zone. And then, obviously, the Broncos offense kind of figuring it out, but not being able to score late. We got stopped in the red zone twice. Will Lutz banged a field goal that bounced off. So, just miscues across the board in all phases of the game. But interested to see how they respond. I think it's important to say that this game sucked to lose because it helped the Jags get in and pulled the Chargers one game closer to us. But with that being said, I think it's okay to lose a game because obviously the win streak is no longer on the table, so you're not sitting here in the back of your head, if we lose this one, people are going to think we're frauds, kind of like what happened to New England, and then New England responded the way they did. So I think this week's a big-time get-right game for the Broncos. And then the Jaguars are a hot team that I don't really think anybody's been talking about at all, especially I haven't even given them a thought. I knew they were still in the mix and knew they were decent, but Trevor Lawrence is turned into that quarterback of – why he got drafted where he did, that 1-1 spot, is because coming out of Clemson, he was supposed to be the next dude, the next Peyton Manning, Tom Brady-esque player. And, Jacksonville's had their up and down years, but he's really, when
he's been healthy.
Yeah, he's been healthy and he's been hot. They've been good, and he's got the weapons, and Jacoby Myers is playing great. Obviously, Washington had a great week, and then
what a great midseason pickup, by the way.
Yeah, and then Brian Robinson Jr. and Travis Etienne's coming into his own, so it's been great. I mean, he has weapons everywhere on the field, so it'll be interesting. I think that team will go as far as their defense can carry them, and their defense is obviously they're not world breakers by any means, but they're a great bend don't break opportunistic defense. So
I think this gives Broncos more focus to their focus. I mean, I think you always talk about it's just one game at a time, but there's always things going on in the back of your mind. There's a lot of pressure. as an organization and a team. There's a lot of pressure on their quarterback of what they're looking like. Nobody's ever questioned the Broncos defense this year that I'm aware of, but this loss puts them at a point now where you're looking at these next two games have definitely more meaning to them as far as importance in winning, as far as implications going into the postseason. And so I don't think a loss is ever a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily hurt you in terms of where you're at and what you're playing for. So the game on Thursday against the Chiefs are going to be super important. Then they'll wrap up a game that probably means that they're not sitting players. Because here's the conversation I had with Bone a couple weeks ago, is that with the Chiefs mathematically being eliminated, if the Broncos had already locked up a division and potentially that number one seed, if they went into Arrowhead and locked up the one seed in the AFC, are you benching your players for the last week and then benching your player? I mean, then you don't play in the first round, and then it's the next week after that. You're talking 20 days without your starters taking a snap. How confident you feel in that? He's like, I don't know. He said Sean Payton seems to be pretty aggressive when it comes to playing. I'm not letting my guys take a day off. And then you see all the injuries that have come up over the last couple of weeks. You go, I don't know. So now all of those questions, I think, go out the back of your mind that says, okay, this is football. This is the NFL. Anything can happen from week to week, and every win is that important for that destiny where you want to be at the end of the year, hosting the AFC Championship game in Denver. And so I think that probably is going to work in their favor, because I don't know that they're the best team in the AFC.
Yeah.
I don't think they're in any worse position than any other team in the AFC, but they're not as full team as some of the other teams that we've got out there, especially when you look at what's going on in the NFC. There's some better teams out there for sure. Anything can happen when you get to the game. It's big players making big-time plays in big games, and that's what you'll need to see. So I think you want that one seed for sure and getting the bye, but I think that not resting your players in that last week is probably going to actually work out in their favor, because I think that they get the one seed and they get the bye.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
I think ideally it comes down to you win the next 2 weeks, you beat the Chiefs, then you beat the Chargers and win the West, and then you lock up the one seed. That way you're still resting your guys for a week, but you're not sitting there for 21 days or 20 days or whatever.
I was surprised by the loss, but clear back at the beginning of the season when the Chiefs lost to the Jags on a Monday Night Football game down in Jacksonville, I said they're not a team that you can sleep on. And I don't know that that's what we did necessarily, but that was one of those things when Tristan and I were talking about what that schedule looks like on the back half. He's like, well, that's a win. And now you're like,
Yeah.
wasn't a win for us, wasn't a win for you guys. And so look at Jacksonville, coming in, I guess you'd say under the radar. That
100%.
You don't want everybody talking about you. You don't want everybody thinking about what they have to do to beat you. You want to come in there and take them by storm. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen here, but I would have never went into the 2025 season thinking we'd be talking about the Jaguars. That just wasn't a conversation that was honestly great.
I think we had him like borderline playoff team in a rebound season this year by Trevor Lawrence, but like you said,
We had him at. You had him at 7-10. I had him at 9-8.
Really?
And they're
Yeah.
11-4. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just lights out football from Trevor Lawrence. And I thought Liam Cohen was a dipshit, so he wasn't going to get it done. But shout out him. He's kind of. I don't know if you ever get away from the whole Duval thing. I don't think you can ever live that part down. But you win a couple playoff games, and it might be a little less loud.
Yeah. No, I said I don't know how much to make of it. Like with Denver having the emotional win against Green Bay and being the hottest team in the NFL, and like of course they beat Philadelphia earlier, they beat Houston, they beat Kansas City. I know Kansas City wasn't what they were used to be, but they were still competitive and healthier in that game. So like all these big wins, we talked about that being a potential trap game just for the fact of Jacksonville's 11 coming in was 10-4, and like with Trevor Lawrence the week before throwing for 5 touchdowns at home. Granted, it was against a banged up losing Daniel Jones. I guess that was 2 weeks ago, but still. But as hot as like the last 2 or 3 games, Jacksonville being as hot as anybody, and I wanted to know. I was curious about like Denver was the hottest team winning 11 games in a row, but nobody was talking about Jacksonville and I don't know how much they were sleeping on. It's the NFL. You'd like to think that they were ready for any game, but I don't think most people had them even beating Denver, and it was just kind of Jacksonville's legit. But the craziest thing to me, what I took from the game was, and to be honest, I didn't get a chance to watch very much. I watched highlights of it because I was watching the Pittsburgh game and they're doing Christmas stuff already. But from what I saw, it just looked like they seemed kind of flat and they weren't getting the same contributions. It seemed like they still have decent games, but from Harvey and Franklin, some of those guys. But the craziest thing to me is, like I said, I think ultimately it's probably good for them in the sense of you don't want you want to go in hot, but it gets the pressure off a little bit having that loss. But it's crazy to me that everyone's talking about Denver, and Denver's had the best record in the NFL up until last week. Now they're tied for still having the best record. They win 11 straight. They're not even won the division yet. Assuming the Chargers win and the Broncos, it doesn't matter. Even if they both win or one of them lose, unless the Chargers lose this weekend and the Broncos win, the Chargers win next week, they have the same record. They swept you guys. Then Denver's not even going to win the division, which is crazy to me because Denver's had the best record for the last 2 months. And so, and obviously, it just seemed like something. Do I say magical? I know it's your team, but just something just crazy finishes and there's a lot of skill. There's a lot of things that have to go your way. And some of that's luck. That's where I think the last couple of years you see Kansas City on some of those Super Bowl years, and especially last year, and those one-score games, and then look at what they were this year. Just sometimes the way the ball bounces, and so especially with Denver seeming to have that. I don't know. That was my biggest takeaway, was just a real wasted opportunity. They didn't lose to a slouch team, but it seemed like Denver, from what I saw, I didn't watch the whole game, seemed they came out kind of flat. But Jacksonville, kudos to them. They're pretty much going to be locked in. They could still catch if one of the other teams, the Patriots, lose a couple more, and the Broncos or Chargers lose.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to happen. So they're probably
one seed still alive.
They're probably locked on the number 3 seed, but probably would probably play that Chargers team at home, or play maybe if Houston bumps up.
Yeah.
Denver needs to find a few more ways to get Mims the ball.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So it's going to be a good one. And one thing about that, though, is on Christmas, a game that 3 weeks ago, you look at how important is that game on Christmas Day, Denver coming into Arrowhead, GHA, whatever. You realize how tough that game's going to be, even if the Chiefs are mathematically removed from it.
Right.
And Patrick Mahomes is going to come out there and play, and now you're looking at a completely different storyline, and you're thinking, can we not go in there and beat Kansas City when the Titans just did? I feel like Denver comes in and wins the game on Christmas Day and gets that one, and then you're looking at, okay, now it's the final game of the year
in Denver.
How important is that?
Yeah.
And I think the Chargers will lose one, but
yeah, I think
you're right.
Yeah, they play the Texans this week, so the Chargers obviously have a little bit tougher of a hill to climb than Denver does, but it'll be interesting to see. Rolling into the next game, we're going to recap here. The Pittsburgh Steelers get a 29-24 win over the Detroit Lions, kind of ending that Detroit.
As we all knew they would.
As we all predicted. But Jared Goff, 364, 3 touchdowns. Absolutely no running production, though. That Pittsburgh rush defense was amazing, holding them to 15 yards. J-Mo for 70 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 10 for 66 and a tutty. The Steelers, on the other hand, Aaron Rodgers, 266 and a touchdown. Jalen Warren for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, having a great game.
I think he's starting.
Kenneth Gainwell, 50 yards on the ground. And then Kenneth Gainwell also leading the team in receiving yards with 78 yards and a touchdown. Adam Thielen, 4 for 49, and our boy DK Metcalf, 4 for 42. Just a crazy game. Came down to the last play that got called back there for the Lions. But Pittsburgh's destiny is in their own hands, and I'm going to let Twitch kind of take this one away because he's the Steelers expert. But crazy ending, especially with what happened with DK2, and with doing this without TJ Watt, and kind of effectively ending a team that never gave up. They were in it till the very last snap. But Detroit's season effectively basically over at this point. that some absolutely wild stuff happens.
And that was a team that I thought would come back. We talked
I think we
weeks
all
ago.
did, just 'cause
who's
Dan
that
Campbell,
team
man.
that's still not out of it? I took Detroit. So
Yeah, I mean, the
Steelers.
I mean, even being my team, I have been dogging on us, but I didn't honestly give us much of a chance just because I didn't think we had the offense, even with the way our offense has played over the last 2 or 3 games. I didn't give us a chance against like our defense and how inconsistent they've been, and with Detroit, whether they had too much ground coming in. Both teams were 8-6 coming in. Even if Detroit didn't squeak in that they were going to win, you're going to get Detroit's best shot. So you know what I mean. Like at least they would take care of business. But kudos to my Steelers. I'll give them credit for this. Like Jalen Warren having not one but 2 45-yard touchdowns off the left side. Like somebody I bring up every week, but just continue a hard runner, and then getting spots like you kind of mentioned before by committee. DK not having a great game, but having 4 catches, and Thielen and Scotty Miller and Darnell Washington, like guys like that getting involved. So it was. I mean, as a Steelers fan, it was just like I think we were shocked because it looked like it was going to be a blowout, and then then they come back to make it 22-17, and then Warren scores another touchdown. And what kind of left the door open on that 29-24 was something that doesn't usually happen, but Boswell missing a kick within 40 yards. I don't think it was only his 3rd missed kick of the year. I mean, he just didn't miss, but Pittsburgh did everything they could to keep it close and blow that lead. So it looked like I never would have expected them to have that big of a lead and then almost blow it. And then I don't know how many times that last 2 minutes, the last 20 seconds, like about 4 times, like I thought we lost and then we won and then we lost. And especially when they got all the way down with it was 1st and goal from the 1. But kudos to the Pittsburgh defense for holding strong. They got obviously helped by a couple penalty calls. Detroit just kind of they had another one. The two obvious penalties, and then they had one where Goff put a pretty good ball up on a jump ball to LaSalle, and he just went right through his hands. I said, but big win for Pittsburgh. The defense kind of struggled like at the end of the game, but they said holding Jamar Gibbs and Montgomery to 15 total rushing yards, on top of just consistent pressure by Hayward, by Alex Highsmith, by rookie Jack Sawyer, like with Watt being out. Just another one of those guys that's kind of like they seem to draft linebackers really well. So I don't know. I said I'll take the win. I said, but if you're Detroit, they're disappointing season. Just about the 5th loss this year where they had a shot at the end and then to lose in that fashion. I mean, they could be sitting there right there fighting for the division if the ball goes. That's a game of inches in the NFL, but
Very much so.
disappointing because that's a team that we've all talked about. We like watching. We enjoy Dan Campbell and just kind of that underdogs, snake bitten franchise for years. And then when you watch them for most games, you watch them for 80 to 90% of it, they look like a playoff team.
Yeah, they look great, and then the other 1% is just terrible.
Yeah.
So interject a quick fantasy question for you here, Twitch. I got on my running back fantasy team. I got Christian McCaffrey, which I'm obviously starting. I'm going to start Jonathan Taylor. My flex position, I've been putting Henry in there, and he hasn't been that productive, and I've been leaving Warren on my bench. So Warren plays at Cleveland at noon. Do I bench Henry and put Warren in there for my flex player?
Playing against that Packers rush defense for Derrick Henry.
I would probably, but they said the same thing with us not having Metcalf. But that's what I want to say too. And I'm going to answer your question by finishing Pittsburgh definitely the last 3 weeks taking care of business, and for all the criticism on the offensive side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers has completely turned that offense to where it's much more balanced, playing at a really high level right now. But to answer your question, that's almost a toss-up because both Cleveland and Green Bay have great defenses, and I expect, especially if it's a backup, if Lamar doesn't play, they're going to sell out on the run. So I would say Warren, but Cleveland, but I don't know how good our offense is going to be one dimensional. They'll note it, but I feel like Warren's the safer play because I feel like Henry, the ceiling of Henry is probably bigger, and but I just feel like if you want just conservative, not going to cost you, I'd say Jalen Warren because Jalen Warren's good for I tell you every week. Jalen Warren's good for at least 100 total yards every week because he's going to at least 40 to 50 on the running game and 40-50 on the passing game at least. So that's a tough one, but
Why aren't you asking me for my take?
Yeah, because I'm playing you.
Right.
I dropped this guy called Sean Tucker. You're gonna want to pick him up. He's great. Third string running back, gets a couple carries a game.
Yeah. But no, I said that was a great game. I said, and then like for those who didn't get to watch the ending, I said like there was a pass where Pittsburgh stops them at the one, and then they have a lateral. But then there was a what was it? Was that the offensive pass interference?
Yeah.
And so they St. Brown goes to lateral it, and Goff catches and dives over the end zone like a great play, and then everyone in Detroit goes nuts. And so then they took what seemed like, as I saw another funny clip today, it's like you had about enough time to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy extended version before they actually made the call on the field. But it came down to before they finally made the call, but they said it's a touchdown. However, the penalty negated it, and it was in the ball game. So Pittsburgh hung on, got kind of lucky at the end. So kudos to the defense for stepping up and playing pretty good defense for the first three quarters. Understandably, part of me is like hard on the Pittsburgh defense, but like Detroit's got a good offense and with their season on the line and coming out with a win, that's huge for Pittsburgh. And like for Detroit, it's like I said, just a season of 4 or 5 of those kind of losses, heartbreaking losses, where if 1 or 2 of them go their way, they're still fighting for a playoff spot. So it's too bad. Great game, though.
Yeah, speaking, staying in that division there, the Baltimore Ravens lose 24-28 to the New England Patriots. Lamar Jackson got down with that back injury, questionable this week. Had 101 yards before he left. Tyler Snoop Hunt came in 9 for 10 for 65 yards. Derrick Henry had himself another King Henry game, and I said it during the game, but it's sad that he's never going to win a Super Bowl. It's really sad to.
What was his final stats?
He had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I mean,
I just can't see not starting.
It's a crazy game. Zay Flowers 1 for 18 and a touchdown in there. Zay Flowers also leading the team in receiving for 84 yards. DeAndre Hopkins 4 receptions for 41 yards. One of those catches being maybe the catch of the year. Just outrageous, one-handed. You forget this guy wears size 13 gloves, so his hands are outrageously large, but just one-handed stupid catch that everybody thought he didn't catch, but he actually did. On the other side, the Patriots getting the win. Drake May, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Stevenson, 51 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs having himself a crazy night for 9 receptions, 138 yards. With Matt Collins, the barefoot guy, 7 receptions for 69 yards. So, just absolutely crazy night. Baltimore was up for a lot of the game, and then New England just came back and kind of put that nail in the coffin to make them a legit team. I feel like this kind of doesn't really help their case if they played a weak schedule, because Lamar Jackson got hurt. They ended up playing a backup the rest of the game, and he went 9 for 10 and 65 yards. So he still ran the offense effectively.
Yeah,
but
take care of the ball.
Yeah,
That's all
also-
you want them to do.
yeah, exactly. He did what he needed to do, but obviously got the win, comeback win, 28-24. The Ravens, I haven't watched the Ravens this year. I think last time I watched them was that first game of the year against the Bills. And their pass rush, I mean, we've talked about it, and I've seen some highlights that it's not good, but Drake May, I feel like could have stood back there and just ran time off the clock if he really wanted to. But towards the end of the game, just absolutely no pass rush from anywhere. They had to rush at least 6 guys to get any kind of movement out of Drake May, but you rush 6 guys, that takes 1 out of the secondary, and then you're spinning the ball down the field, and obviously Stephon Diggs proved it with 938. Still, I think Mike Vrabel has Stephon Diggs playing he's in a different headspace, obviously. 'Cause, I mean, we saw him at Buffalo. He was always a hothead, always kind of that diva receiver. Then we saw him in Minnesota, same thing. And then in Houston, kind of short-lived with the ACL injury, but kind of the same thing. And last night, it was a whole different side of Stephon that we hadn't seen, that, on the sideline hyping the guys up, hey, we still got this, inspiring the guys. And then
Football's always better when you're winning.
yeah, exactly. And he's bought all in on the Vrabel camp up there. And then I feel like Drake May, if Matthew Stafford has another slip up this, obviously he played a great game on Thursday, so you can't say that wasn't on him at all, especially throwing interceptions. But if Stafford doesn't win MVP, I think Drake May takes it just because of how lights out he's been this year. And granted, they've played a weak schedule, so that might hurt him in the long run, in the pace. But still 380 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then his total stats on the year, 3,947 yards. And then just absolutely slinging the rock. It's outrageous to see what that New England transformation has looked like. 25 touchdowns. He's thrown 8 picks, but he has the best QBR in the league for the season. So it's just great to see him kind of work out the way they have. And also kind of not necessarily ending because the AFC North is kind of in an interesting spot where you can be 7-8 and still have a chance to make the playoffs with 2 games left. But it'll be interesting to see what happens down the stretch here. But obviously, I don't know what to think of New England at this point after the quote weak schedule they played out. Granted, they're all NFL teams, but being 12-3 against being 12-3 and they're in a good spot. But it'll be interesting to see how this playoff run works. Because if they win a playoff game, everybody's going to be like, oh, well, they're actually a good team. And if they lose in the playoffs, then everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, just told you they were fraud all years.
Yeah.
Very much so.
No, I feel like the Patriots have obviously been one of the most solid teams. I do think they've been a product of, having an easier schedule. But that being said, last year those Patriots were 5-11, 5-12. So it's like they were one of those teams. So you can't underestimate. And for those that watch highlights of them most weeks, I said they've been in control in almost every one of those games. So it's like they are playing easier teams, but they're taking care of exactly what they're supposed to do. And coming from a team that won 5 or 6 games last year to, whatever they are, they're 12-3.
Yeah, they're 12-3.
So, no, I was more impressed by. I was more impressed by New England because I actually had the Ravens with the upset. Like, you could go either way with that disappointing season. Like, we've talked about, who would have thought at the beginning of the year, injuries or not, that we'd be talking about the Chiefs, the Bengals. Well, the Bengals are believable because they suck.
Yeah.
But at least for the Chiefs and the Ravens both being out of the playoffs, that's just crazy. But I said, that's why I had New England losing this weekend, just because with Baltimore, New England's been the more balanced team, no superstars other than May playing this year. Been the better team, but just no superstars, and I just thought they'd get Baltimore's best shot in a primetime game, backs against the wall, and New England didn't flinch, and they may have only got 2 turnovers out of it. I said, but the 2 turnovers were the difference in the whole ball game, and that's just where New England, old school, going back to the first years of Tom Brady. It's simple formula. I said, you don't turn the ball over, and you just do your job. I said, nothing sexy about it, nothing fun, exciting. They said not a lot of superstars, but they don't beat themselves. And so I was more impressed with. Yes, if you're a Ravens fan, I'm not a Ravens fan, obviously, but if you're a Ravens fan, I was just disappointing just because with the 1-5 starting and then winning 5 straight and then losing a couple of these games where they've lost and then, like you said, leading for most of the game. But I give more credit to the Patriots, and also keeping the heat on them for the 1 seed. They're not out of the 1 seed yet, and they have Buffalo breathing right in the next week. Obviously, Buffalo's red hot. So, with all that pressure, I thought the way they showed up on Sunday, getting the win in Baltimore, I thought that was to me, that was more the story of the game. And Drake May, like I said, I agree. If it doesn't go to Matthew Stafford, Drake May has got to be a top 3 candidate for MVP just because he's played outside of his mind.
Very much so. That concludes the games we're going to recap. We're going to go to Box's College Football Corner here in a second and then give our pregame or give our predictions for next week and some banter about what the sign's going to say, but we'll come back to you after a quick College Football Corner. College Football Corner this week, we had our first round of playoff games. Oregon beats JMU 51-34. Bama beats Oklahoma 34-24 in Norman. Old Miss handles Tulane 41-10, and Texas A&M loses to Miami 10-3. Fun fact about that game: Texas A&M had more people arrested for drunkenness, disorderly, and shit like that. They had 5 people arrested, and they only scored 3 points. So they had more arrests than points that day down there in College Station, which is believable for the SEC. Recap of these games: Oregon dominated JMU. JMU came back against the third stringers, and so it wasn't much of a game. Bama upsets Oklahoma 34-24. Oklahoma's offense just couldn't move the ball down the field. Their defense played lights out, but against a good SEC school like that, you can't do much. Old Miss handled Tulane. There's not much to say about that one. And then Miami getting the win against Texas A&M. If you like to watch shitty offenses, you should go watch the highlights from that game. Holy crap, that game sucked. The winds were blowing all over the place, but interceptions, missed field goals, everything. If you're a lover of bad offense, that's the game you should go watch because it was not fun to watch at all. But that sets up our New Year's Eve and New Year's games. In the Orange Bowl, we have Oregon taking on Texas Tech with that amazing Texas Tech defense. In the Rose Bowl, we have Indiana playing Alabama. In the Sugar Bowl, we have Georgia versus Ole Miss. Kind of feels like a home game for Georgia because, Georgia seems to be playing in the Sugar Bowl every other year. And in the Cotton Bowl, we have Miami at Ohio State on New Year's Eve. Those other games are on New Year's Day themselves, starting at 1 o'clock and the last one kicking off at 7. I'm mostly excited to watch the Oregon-Texas Tech game because Oregon, kind of played a weaker Big Ten schedule this year, and then Texas Tech having that amazing defense they have. And then another one that'll be interesting to watch for sure is Indiana and Alabama because Indiana, obviously undefeated, has the Heisman winner, but they've been sitting a week, and they're going to sit another week so they don't play after Christmas for some reason. Obviously, there's a lot of college football coaches that have put out interviews and stuff that they don't like this college football playoff where you have conference championship and then a week and then you play your game, then you got another week, and then if you have a first round bye, you're sitting at home for 3 weeks instead of just playing like every other playoff where you play first round, second round, third round onto the championship. And I get you don't want to take up Christmas because that's NFL and NBA and all that shit, but they definitely need to come up with a better schedule for these guys that way. And I think this also proved that the college football committee definitely needs to rethink how they did it because there is a Notre Dame team sitting at home that's 11-3, and there's a BYU team sitting at home that's 11-2 that doesn't get blown out like 41-10 or 51-34 in these games. And granted, I know you want to, everybody wants to cheer for the underdog, get the little guy in there. Everybody wants the JMU or a Tulane to upset a big time school like that, but this isn't. It's hard to say. It's weird to say, but it's not. This isn't basketball. You're not going to get a Cinderella game like that where the level of competition is not that different, but the level of the athletes and the level of guys they see all years is different. JMU played nobody all year. I mean, they played 0 5-stars, and then Oregon has 55 stars on roster. You're just going to get ran over. You can't expect because it's just different level of athletes. It's not as much about scheme or anything like that like it is in the NFL. It's a lot more Jimmys and Joes and who you can recruit with your NIL bucket and all that crap. But I'm excited for the New Year's games. Obviously, there's some good ones. I think Georgia rolls over Ole Miss. I think that's the only one that I feel like is a layup here. But I think Oregon and Texas Tech will be a great one. Indiana and Bama, just to see if Indiana's legit or not. And then Miami, Ohio State. Obviously, Miami win by 10 points, and Ohio State's been hot. But, they made it to the second round. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But
my biggest one is Indiana, just because, what little bit I still do watch. I said, Mendoza's a lot of fun to watch. And, on paper, them being Ohio State, I would say they're 1 seed, but whereas another year where it doesn't look like Bama's Alabama, so they have the history. They're still Alabama. That's never that's an easy win on the schedule every time you play Alabama. So that's the game I'm most looking forward to because
I enjoy Signetti's interview. That keeps coming up because they keep winning. But the one is in his first interview, the reporter asked, "Why are you good for this job?" And he said, "Google me, I win." And obviously, the last 2 years he's proved it. He's made the college football 2 times in 2 years in a row with a team that hasn't been good at football since 1943 or whenever the last time they won their championship.
Yeah.
So, just absolutely wild to see them, what they're doing. And then, obviously, you got the SEC powerhouses like you assume there would be. And then the one Big 12 school out there holding it down. So, I'm interested to see what will happen there. But that concludes Box's College Football Corner for the week. We'll definitely do picks, not next week, but the week after since they have a Christmas bye here. And then we'll see who's playing in the next round of the bowl games. And then, always be on the lookout for the Pop-Tart Bowl. If you're not if you watch football more for the theatrics and not necessarily the game, go watch the Pop-Tart Bowl. There's all kinds of crazy shit that happens. They eat a Pop-Tart that, it's like cannibalism. He kills himself inside the toaster, and then they eat him after the game. So, there's all kinds of crazy shit with that one. Well, we're going to roll into our Week 17 picks here. This last week, finally, 2 out of 16 beating Twitch. Finally. Woo! Not going to catch him, but here
I
we
want
are.
to see what the other week was.
Yeah, I think the other week was that 1 week that I went 9-8, you had 7-8 or something. But Great. I mean, Twitch is still up all time. We are at Twitch at 165.73 and I went 90 or what's this? Is that 74?
Yes.
74, 94 and 1. No, that's not right. 144.
Oh, 144.
144. I was going to say 74 wins. That's shit. That's so bad. 144, 94 and 1. So obviously, we both ended up with great records: 11, 5, 10, and 6.
Oh yeah. So hold on, you're right. It should be 144. I think.
144.
Yeah.
All right, 144.
Yeah.
But excited to pick games this week. We're gonna have LSV read us off our games here. Obviously, we got a Christmas slate. We got a couple games on Saturday, and then obviously this is our last Thursday night games of the year. So, be watching them whatever you're doing on Christmas. But
Well, we all know.
yeah, we know what we're doing on Christmas, but be on the lookout because this is really the last time of weird primetime games because then we're rolling into playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, Thursday, first game. We had a noon, a 3:30, and a 7:15 game.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I guess that noon game then is the Cowboys traveling to Washington playing the Commanders.
Yeah, I have the Cowboys taking care of it here. Last week, kind of laid an egg against the Chargers, but I think the Chargers obviously have more to play for than the Cowboys, and they wanted it more. And the Cowboys' offense kind of looking like a dud the last 2 weeks. I think they bounced back against a division rival like this. It is prime time still. It's on Christmas. It's people are going to be watching it. Eyes are going to be on it. And I think the Cowboys bounced back with that offense. I mean, the Commanders will be competitive just because it's in division, and I mean they still have guys out there, but I think the Cowboys just go out there and handle business. Business.
Yeah, I agree. I've had the Cowboys struggling on offense, like kind of sporadic the last 2 weeks. I expect it to be close. Commanders playing a lot better the last 2 or 3 weeks, but in a lost season for both. But I feel like Dallas is a little more on offense, and I like the Cowboys. Like I said, with the following the Cowboys have, and like just the pride. I don't want to make too much out of that, but like just the pride. They said Cowboys playing Christmas Day, all eyes on the Cowboys. Everybody loves the Cowboys, at least in Cowboys fans' heads.
Yeah.
So I feel like Dallas gets the win.
This is crazy because think back to the Thanksgiving Day games, how great they were.
Yeah.
And this is what we're getting on.
And if you think when they
Christmas.
made this schedule earlier in the year, this
Yeah.
game would have been a marquee matchup. Obviously, the Commanders being in the position, and everybody thought the Cowboys were going to be decent, still in the playoff hunt. But looking back now, they should have flexed this game out for the later games for sure.
Well,
The
and
same thing with the
same thing with the
Broncos.
next, same thing with the next couple games. We got the 3:30 game, and we have Detroit going up to Minnesota and playing the Vikings.
Yeah,
Yeah, two playoff teams from last year.
I have the Lions in this one, just because obviously the Lions are out of it now. They still mathematically can make it in, but I don't see that happening with how hot the NFC West has been and how hot the Bears and Packers have been. But I think the Lions. Dan Campbell's not going to let them give up. They're not going to give up on Dan Campbell. They're still going to go out and play. And J.J. McCarthy has looked better, but he hasn't looked good enough to beat the
He's
Lions.
out this week, remember?
Oh yeah, he's out this. Yeah, Lions by 1 million.
Yeah.
I guess unless they pull a. What's Frank Tarkenton up to now?
Right.
Like what's
Dante Culpepper.
what's Matt Ryan doing? Is he going to come out of retirement and throw a couple passes?
Well, that's all three of these games.
Yeah, I'll
I
take
have-
Christmas slate's not
I have
bad.
the Lions as well, just for like the reason why you just said, not mathematically out. You look at Detroit, when you watch them, it seems like every week it's about 80%, 85% of the game they look like a playoff team. And Campbell, they said they've been in every game that they've lost, and especially with Minnesota playing a backup quarterback, I feel like Detroit will, unfortunately, hopefully be back next year. But I think they'll finish off winning the last 2 games of the year, finish off 10-7, and I feel like they'll still play hard, and I feel like they'll beat the Vikings.
Then we got our late game, the 7:15 Broncos rolling into GEHA playing the Chiefs. A game that I'm sure at the beginning of the year when you put that schedule out there, a lot of hype going into this one, and now there's no hype going into it other than if you're a Broncos fan, you're like, this should be an easy take care of business on the road game, which is important. But I don't know how many people are tuning into that game.
Yeah, I'm amped up for it for more than just the game itself. The pregame will be amazing.
Yeah.
But I have the Broncos in this one. I think Respawn we're playing the Chiefs' third-string quarterback. Which
Chris,
obviously, yeah.
what's his name?
Oh, yeah, Chris. We're playing Chris this week. Chris played great. I mean, he played decent last week against. He has a little bit more mobility in him than Gardner Minshew. So yeah, I think he can make plays down the field. But I think
Trevor Swift came in the other day when we were watching this game. She's like, Who is this
who's
guy?
this guy? Where is he from?
Well, Gardner's out, so this is what we've risen to the talent level of. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think a lot of this game is for Kansas City just getting to evaluate your players. There's always this mantra of each we trust going on at Arrowhead for our fans, and this last year, I think maybe he missed some opportunities in free agency and trades and the draft, and so I mean, you can't go out there and bat 1,000 all the time. But he's been a guy though for his entire career there. Since we've brought in Mahomes, everybody has just believed in that we're going to get this figured out. And this year we got some O's out there. So now it's time to put some players out there on the field and let us see what they can do. I mean, you play to win for sure every week because you have people that are that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to go out there and play a game and win. And there is something though to be said for you need to evaluate your players on the field in real game situations. And the Broncos are coming out there to win. Trust me, there's no way the Broncos are not starting every offensive weapon they've got. They need this. So this is if you want to see where your guys rise up to the challenge, this is where you put those guys in and see what they can do. You give Kelsey, Worthy, Jones, you give those guys the opportunity to reach some incentives on their contracts and stuff for sure. And you want to go out there and play to win, but you need to pull some guys up there on your roster and put them in situations where you can see what they're actually able to contribute. You don't want to be doing this. You don't want to be having this game in August next year. You want to have those guys have that opportunity to prove themselves now.
Start Carson Steele.
So, yes, bring his alligator.
Yeah, bring his baby alligator on the sideline.
Fuck that. I say put Travis Kelce at quarterback. He was a third-string quarterback.
Just let him run. Let him run
Yeah,
triple option
last
with
2
Kareem
games
and
of the Chiefs,
Pacheco.
when the season's done, he'd probably be like Jameis Winston. He'd probably throw four picks and 4 touchdowns. Like it'd be entertaining.
Yeah, speaking of Jameis
Yeah.
Winston, I picked him up on my fantasy team this week to motivate the boys for the fantasy championship. He's going to ride the bench, but he's going to get the boys fired up, have some iconic moments
Maybe
for us.
we will see something crazy out of Kelsey, though, these last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
have
probably
fun.
our last.
If one thing the Chiefs have shown us is that they're not afraid to come up there and draw out some crazy ass plays, the little carousel, everybody running around in a circle doing something. Maybe Andy Reid just says, "Let's have some fun with it, but let's let our
empty
guys
the
go out there."
bag. Let's empty the bag.
Yeah,
and
let's.
just-
So you're taking the Chiefs
No. No, it was funny.
with
I was
Kelsey
leaving-
at quarterback?
I was leaving work today, and somebody said, "That's a big Chiefs fan that I work with." It's like, man, I'm going to watch the game. I'm just going to turn on It's a Wonderful Life. And I said, well, if you watch the Chiefs Broncos game on Thursday, I bet it's like watching A Wonderful Life, but you just turn the movie off the last 20 minutes. So, no, I don't expect it to be close at all. I'm really looking forward to it. Always a great time going to a Chiefs game, divisional rivalry. But Denver's got too much to play for. They've been too hot. They had a letdown last week. Really put the pressure not only on the Patriots and on the Chargers playing that Thursday game, and with the Chargers playing a tough Texans team this weekend. Put the pressure on them. Like I said, no offense, Kansas City just lost to the Titans. I know it's a week-to-week league. You never know. And it's at Arrowhead. Crazier things have happened. But I just feel like Denver's, other than last week, had been hitting their stride at the right time. They're legitimate. They know, I think that they're probably like sharks in the water. They know that they control their own destiny and sweep the Chiefs. I can keep going on. Really.
Well,
You got a third-string quarterback, whoever plays it suits up, going against that Denver defense.
and for all of our listeners out there, we are going to the game, so we're going to be going up there. So we'll do a little Twitch and Box sports talk from the parking lot, and I'm paying off my debt, wearing a cardboard sign made by Box. Yeah. So we're going to have some fun with it. Shout out to the Broncos, maybe getting something done, but I'm going to have fun. Probably the last game we'll be at there.
Yeah, it's LSV's last ride.
Yeah. So an uneventful Christmas Day compared to where we were at.
Like I was worried that I was gonna miss. Like the first 2 games I was gonna miss were not gonna be good, but I actually feel no regret missing those 2 games.
So, I mean, but that's, yeah, fun. So, but it's great to have NFL football on Saturdays again. We do have a meaningful game here on Saturday at 3 o'clock. We do have the Texans' hot defense going out there and playing the Chargers on the road. So yeah, the Texans are on the road playing the Chargers. So this game's got some huge implications for what happens in the AFC West standings, or AFC standings. So what's your take on this one? So this is going to be our game of the week then, Saturday rolling into that 3 o'clock game against the Texans going out to play the Chargers. Definitely, Texas defense has been hot. Chargers and Texans both have a lot to play for. What do you think? What's your prediction there, Twitch?
I think everyone knows where I'm going with this one. Just because the Chargers have been playing really well, it's after they had kind of that lull in the middle of the season, it was like, is this the same Chargers years past? But I'm going to go with the Texans. Texans, you talk about teams still flying under the radar somewhat. Like, it kind of caught attention from that Chiefs game and the win against the Bills, but they kind of, and they had a close, uncharacteristically close game against the freaking Raiders last week, but I think that was just, they just kind of took a week off. But you talk the Patriots, you talk about the Broncos, but we're talking about the Texans, who are won 10 of the last 12. And I'd say even over as much as I like the Seahawks and Broncos, like probably the top defense in the NFL. And I think like you said, there's a reason why this is the game of the week. I can see it go either way, but I believe fully in the Texans. I said in that consecutive week when they beat Buffalo, Kansas City, lost by 2, but controlled most of that Denver game. I feel like Houston's legit, and that defense has shut down literally every offense that they've played, and the amount of pressure they get, and the Chargers have been kind of hit and miss on protecting Herbert. Overall, pretty good, but like as good as Keenan Allen is and Jackson is, they're inconsistent. And like I said, there's just no weaknesses. They've got 5 or 6 players out of the starting 11, which again, I don't put a whole lot of focus on Pro Football Focus, but take it for what it is. About 5 or 6 guys that are in the top 10 of their position. I mean, they don't have any weakness on defense, and I feel like C.J. Stroud, again, kind of an up and down game last week, but over the last month and a half since he's been back, has started to kind of figure it out. And like I said, the Texans are 10-2, and I like the Texans in this one.
Tell you what, putting a road game on the map with a win, with 1 week left, I mean, that would be huge for the Texans. I mean, I think that gives them the momentum going into the playoffs.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think, Box?
I think, the Texans have been great, obviously, across the board. But I think the Chargers get it done here. They've won. I mean, obviously, they get embarrassed against the Jacksonville Jaguars 35-6. But, that loss looks a little bit better now with the Jacksonville doing what they've been doing. But, I mean, beating the Eagles in overtime and then absolutely stunning the Cowboys last week, and then obviously beating the Raiders. I think with the Chargers being as hot as they've been down the stretch here, and Justin Herbert, I don't know if it's what they're giving him to treat his hand or what's going on, but he almost seems like a better quarterback now than he was before he broke his left hand. He's running all over the place, making crazy throws like he has in the past. And if we think back to last year, this is the game, the Texans, where he threw 4 interceptions and let C.J. Stroud come back. And they were up big at halftime, and then the Texans came back and won in the playoffs. So I think there's a little bit of resentment there for this Texans team from the Chargers and who's all been there. And that roster didn't have very much turnover across the board. They've added a couple guys, but not really a lot of key losses. So I think the Chargers get it done. I hope they don't, but I just think there's too much, and it's out there in L.A., which, granted the Chargers and the I think the Rams have real fans, but the Chargers don't really seem to have real fans. It seems like they're all paid actors. But I think the Chargers still get it done. They've been hot, and the Texans, they've kind of slowed down recently. And I know it's probably you play the Raiders, so you kind of you don't really empty the bag against the Raiders. You try to go play your base stuff and beat them, and they did. But I think the Chargers get it done in this one, and I think it makes for a very interesting Week 18 for both the Chargers and the Broncos.
I was going to say, that definitely makes it come down to the wire for the Broncos and the Chargers.
I hope the Texans beat them, but I think the Chargers still pull this one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, do something on Saturday for that game. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then, we got a Sunday night game on Saturday, which is awesome. Ravens. I don't know what's going on there with Lamar still. I'm sure that's going to be down to a game time decision probably
Yeah.
with where he's at. But they're going up to Lambeau and they're playing the Packers. Packers got a lot to play for. I mean, both teams do.
Yeah,
So
both quarterbacks being questionable.
Out of conference game here. So I'll start with you, Box.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the impact on quarterback is a lot different between these two teams. If Jordan Love doesn't play, he practiced today. He practiced Tuesday today, and then so he's in concussion protocol, but he can be cleared by Saturday. But again, if there's a hiccup or something, Malik Willis will play. Granted, on the other side, Lamar Jackson doesn't play. I feel like it's a way more of an impact on how the offense runs because Huntley can do the same things, but he doesn't do it as effectively. And obviously, there's not another Lamar Jackson out there, at least that we've seen yet. But I think the Malik Willis to Jordan Love transfer is a lot smoother. Obviously, they're a little bit different skill set, but Malik Willis has a cannon of an arm. He can run around and make the same throws. A little bit more of a mobile quarterback. So I think the Packers get it done in Lambeau. I think the Ravens they lost the way they did to the Patriots, and Lamar not having the year he's had. I think, and that rush defense hasn't been necessarily lights out for the Packers, but they've been able to keep some guys under wraps. And I think Derrick Henry goes in there, has a great game, but if it's Snoop Huntley playing, I think the Packers run away with it.
Well, Malik's definitely the best Titans draft for the quarterback in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and he's not even on the roster anymore. They have Will Levis, and I think Cam Ward's going to be fine.
It's just a joke.
Yeah. We'll talk about Cam Ward here in a minute when we talk about
really?
the Titans and the Chiefs.
Yeah. So what's your take there, Twitch? I mean, you obviously want the Ravens to
Lose.
take an L on
Right.
this one. And I know you got some love-hate for the Packers, but what's your thoughts? I mean, and this is a game about just status about what your quarterback situation is going into that game. And
Very much so.
It's Tuesday here at the Backstage Pass. We don't know what Saturday looks like.
Right.
What are you thinking?
I can see this game go either way. So I almost picked the Ravens just because of the same reason I picked them last week. I said, but it's going to depend on whether Jackson plays, whether Malik Willis. Obviously, Malik coming in and looking pretty good like he did last year when he covered for Green Bay. They didn't look like the moment was too big for him. And, honestly, the Packers' defense, the Packers have looked like the better team. That's why they have the better record than the Ravens. So, like I said, but, I just have a hard time believing that Jackson won't play in this game. But it's kind of crazy because with the Ravens playing the Sunday night game and losing to the Patriots, that's, as a Pittsburgh fan, that's what we're rooting for. If the Ravens, so if we won, which we obviously did, and then they lose to the Packers and they already lost to the Patriots, then we could have the division wrapped up without playing. They could play 2 games before we play again, and we would have a division wrapped up before. So that's obviously what I'm rooting for. I hope this is right. I do have the Packers winning because of the defense and just because the Packers have lost. One, they're usually a lot better at home. They're tough to beat at Lambeau. And like I said, we were talking about a month ago how they were a Super Bowl contender. Granted, that was with Parsons, I said, but they're very balanced on both sides of the ball. And what was I going to say? But, I mean, the Packers losing back-to-back weeks after having the control for both 2/3 of the game against the Broncos and then losing to the Bears the way they did last week. So losing 2 straight, I feel like the Packers rebound. I think they're too good, and Baltimore's just. I mean, if there was ever a week that Baltimore show up, it would have been last week, and they just. So I feel like it's going to be a close game, and I bet Jackson. My guess is that Jackson will play, but I
Still
feel like
not
the
the
Packers.
same with Jackson as we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
I'm starting Henry. So,
Made the decision.
but that's just a tough call on my fantasy
All
team.
right.
So.
Well, when you lose by 20 points because you got nothing to
Well, I
run
mean,
back.
the sad thing is Jonathan Taylor has not been that productive. So do I just bench him and put Warren in there?
Who's the Colts guy?
So, anyways, we're not going to get into that. We got Sunday football to talk about, and we're going to start off by talking about your Steelers going on the road, playing in Cleveland, playing the Browns. Here's what I said: we cancel the podcast if you pick the wrong team.
I'm not going against my team this week just because
Good for you. We've been waiting all year for this.
I picked them about half the games. About half I didn't. But I feel like, obviously it's win. You like either a win or a loss by either team. And then they play the Ravens next week, and they don't want. They also, I don't think, they obviously beat Baltimore. I don't think they're scared about playing Baltimore. But they don't want to come down to just one game. I think Pittsburgh knows that they have a golden opportunity, and like I said, this is what makes me nervous too. Is not only not having a number one receiver, but this is Mike Tomlin special. We weren't expecting him to beat the Patriots. We weren't expecting him to beat the Colts. We weren't expecting him to beat the Lions. They win those, and then they play Joe Flacco. They play the Browns in a meaningless game.
Adderall going on
Those
over
are
there.
those are the games that we traditionally lose. So it's like there's no such thing. I mean, Mike Tomlin's got a losing record against teams that are like 5 wins or less. Seriously, like, and it's not even close over his whole career. So yeah, for people will call him a Hall of Fame coach, and he'll probably make it one day. But
For sure.
I have to just piss on my own team to fucking win. But like I feel like the offense has played a lot better the last 3 weeks. I feel like Myles Garrett unfortunately gets the sack record this game. But
It's a very sackable quarterback.
yeah, but I feel like the way the defense has also stepped up the last 2 weeks, even without T.J. Watt, and playing Shadir Sanders has been wildly inconsistent. I feel like that's what Pittsburgh does. It's bend but don't break, and what determines what our record is like, well, determines win losses. But it's been whether we get turnovers or not. It's either we seem to get them in bunches or not at all. And so, like I said, I think that'll be the difference in the game. Is Pittsburgh will be conservative by almost no choice about having Metcalf, but Rodgers will be careful with the football, and that a rookie quarterback's going to make 1 or 2 mistakes against what's supposedly a complex defensive scheme in Pittsburgh, and that 1 or 2 turnovers, and we take care of business so we can rest before going into to our first round playoff game. Knock on wood. I said that like as if we were automatically making it to the playoffs, but I think Pittsburgh, as much as I talk shit on my own team, they are my team. I feel like Cleveland's not that great, and they have a good defense. I think it'll be a close game. They're a divisional rival, but I'm going to pick my team to win the division this week.
I seem to remember, I mean, it's been probably close to 20 years, I don't know, but there was a Packers quarterback that gave up the defensive sack record. I mean, it was a Strahan and Favre, and he just lets him sack.
Yeah.
Do you see this happening in this game?
Oh, hell no. No.
You don't see old A-Rod looking at Miles in the eyes.
Because the Giants,
Hey, come get me.
but the Giants and Packers aren't rivals. Like I said, and not to mention, not only like you have that's another one that's historic. Like one of the oldest rivalries is Pittsburgh Cleveland. But on top of that, like it's always a 1A 1B. In the last 2 years, I hate to admit it, but Garrett's been the better guy. But before that, like not only that, but not only to beat against Pittsburgh, but then to like take it over from the other guy that you're comparable, T.J. Watt, who is tied for the sack record. So like, no, I don't think. Otherwise, I wouldn't be Aaron Rodgers if I was getting on that bus, whether T.J. plays or not. So,
Hell no.
TJ Watt.
no, there will not be a give me. There will not be a give me sack for the record. I can assure you.
Okay, one thing he's sure of.
I'm
sure of that,
With
too.
a rivalry, you go back and look at classic Pittsburgh. Talking about rivalries.
It's crazy that you can remember things like that from so long ago in football. Just those moments of what are the best football moments that you can remember where records are being broken, and that's one that rings out in my head, and I laughed as I watched that game however many years ago that was. I'm like, there's no way that's happened. So this is going to be,
And a rivalry that's been known for Myles Garrett, speaking of which, like hitting Mason Rudolph with a helmet, or you go back and look at the 70s Steelers rivalry, like that was one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL was the Steelers-Browns, and the number of Joe Green kicks to the dick of a defensive line, literally, and then get thrown out of the game. But like full on, as if one of my kids just took 2 steps and just like kicking a field goal, just right. And so I can assure you, in that rivalry, that it will not be given up.
Okay, so who do you have in this game, Box?
Oh, I'm the Steelers. I think Myles Garrett. I think he gets the sack record. Aaron Rodgers is a very sackable quarterback. Sometimes he holds onto the ball a little too long. Sometimes, so I think he gets it. But that's all I got. That's not really much to talk about. I think Twitch hit everything on the head here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we do have the very mentionable New England Patriots, who have got a great season behind them right now, going out and playing the Jets. I don't see any way that the Jets win this one, but
No, the Jets are a dumpster fire, fighting for that number 1 overall seed or that pick. I think they'll give it up pretty easy. Don't really have much to say. I think the Patriots win.
yeah,
Division game might be a little bit close. But I think the Patriots walk away with it.
Twitch is on his phone. He says the Patriots for sure.
Yeah, no questions asked.
Yeah, I'm listening. I just think we don't just spend a lot of time on it just because like the Jets are on 3 wins on the year, 2 wins on the year, and then the Patriots.
Just laugh. There's nothing to talk about with the Jets. They just are horrible. Now I'm laughing at it. Look at the next noon game. Is that toilet bowl Saints versus Titans?
Nah, what are you talking about? They're both coming off. They're on a win streak.
I know this is crazy.
The Saints are hot, and the Tennessee Titans just beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
And you guys, okay, I see what the picks are here, but go for it. Break it down for me, Box.
I have the Saints in this one. The Saints are 3-0 now.
Okay.
So they're on a hot streak, and they beat the Bucks and they beat the Panthers. And then last week they beat. Gotta look it up because it wasn't a game I was focused on at all. I mean, they beat the Jets last week, and I think they roll again this week, and I think they beat the Titans, who are coming off a historical win for Cam Ward, beating the Kansas City Chiefs the way he did, just absolutely dominating them.
Would you?
And then I think Kellen Moore and Tyler Slaw might be, if they can figure out how to build that roster from the cap hole they've been in. I'm excited to see if maybe the Saints can be good again. I don't think it happens anytime soon. Obviously, like Alvin Kamara is probably done. I think Cam Jordan came out and said this is his last year. Taysom Hill had a very heartfelt interview with the Saints because his contract's expiring, and just it's probably the last time you see him in a Saints uniform. And he's the first player ever to have 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, and 1,000 passing. So I mean, just hell of a game by Taysom Hill. And that was I think that's the last Saints home game, so it's the last time you see him down there in the dome. Hopefully he comes to Denver. I mean, just from a veteran leadership perspective from Taysom Hill. But I'm excited to see where the Saints go, and that's all I have to say about the Saints because there's not much of a game here, but I have the Saints winning this one.
Yeah, I have the Saints as well. They got a lot of young guys, but they have also veteran guys like Cam Jordan stuff that are playing probably their last games for their teams as well. And just a different Saints team over the last month. So all for naught. But finishing strong. Titans get the second win of the year last week. I said, but playing against a bunch of backups. But Cam Ward, if he had anybody else around him, has showed moments of brilliance. He just doesn't have anybody else, and it's sparring in between. But give me the Saints.
Remember the Titans. So yeah, got the red hot Jags going out to Indianapolis, playing the Colts, who started off just unbelievable.
Yeah, they went. This is the first time. So if the Colts miss the playoffs, it's 2 out of 75 times that a team has started 6-1 and not made the playoffs.
That's sad.
It's absolutely crazy. But you think in the drop off they've had, Daniel Jones goes down. They trade 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner, and he hasn't played since.
Yeah, they went all in.
Yeah, they went all in on this team, and now it's in shambles, and you have Phillip Rivers starting as your quarterback. So, I mean...
And I don't even blame them for doing so. So they looked legitimate. They were balanced on both sides.
And it makes sense. It's just absolutely sad. It's sad to see as a Colts fan. If you're a Colts fan, you're out there.
That's the same. Well, there's no Colts.
No Colts fans at all. If you're a Colts fan, I'm sorry. I mean, you had to deal with Andrew Luck, and now you're dealing with this carousel of this is.
They're more worried about Indiana, Bama.
Yeah, exactly. Their college football team's good now, so it doesn't really matter. But I have the Jags winning this one. I think the Jags have been hot, and I hope Phillip Rivers wins a game before he retires, but I don't think this is
he
it.
Starts.
You think Phillip's done?
I think they said today that they were going to try.
Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
Okay, well
See what they got.
Solidified the Jags.
Yeah.
Good job, Phillip. Go get that insurance, buddy.
Right. Yeah.
What did he get signed for? I don't even know what this.
Veteran min. He took the absolute minimum he could go play for, but he also gets the re-up on the insurance for 5 years. When you have 10 kids, it's probably really helpful. Not that that's why he did it.
Right. Well, and the Jags with 4 losses, they split with them. I don't know what the tiebreaker scenario comes down between divisional record or like common opponents, but it's not guaranteed. Especially if Jacksonville were to lose the last 2 games, Houston's only a game back, and they at least split with Jacksonville. So, Jacksonville's red hot. Colts obviously going the opposite way, giving up 48 points again this last on Monday Night Football. Probably having a new quarterback again this week. And we just saw, granted that was when Jones went out, so they didn't really have a backup plan, but we just saw 2 weeks ago how this movie was, and even if the Colts play it closer, I don't know if they have enough to bring in, like, whatever it was, a 30-point loss, enough to close the gap. Like, that was just 2 weeks ago, so. Jacksonville and a landslide.
Well, a team that we talked about early on in the year that was hot and had high hopes for, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are traveling just right across the way over to Miami and playing the Dolphins, who started off slow, then got a little hot, probably saved Mike McDaniel's career, but
Yeah.
no Tua. I mean, it's crazy what's going on down there in Florida. I don't know what comes out of that game. What's your thoughts on that one? I'll go with you, Box.
And my take on that one, I think,
I mean, you were like,
yeah, I'm a big Baker believer.
Baker's got that moxie, and then
Yeah.
we have not seen that,
Yeah,
that
they've
moxie.
lost all these games since. I think, I don't know. I mean, I had the Bucks winning this one against the Dolphins, but this is just two teams that have had very weird seasons. I mean, the Buccaneers, obviously, Baker's not 100% healthy after he tore or had that shoulder injury against the Rams earlier in the season, where you could tell he's not 100%. But just these are two teams that I think earlier in the season you would have asked me. The Dolphins were going to end up competing for the first overall pick, and the Buccaneers were making the playoffs. And now it's both these teams aren't making the playoffs probably, and the Dolphins are a dumpster fire. The Buccaneers are on the verge of lighting that fire if something happens, because they have dudes. But I mean, if you can't win with the guys you have, then why are you paying these guys? And they're kind of, I mean, obviously Emeka Ibuka, they have Bucky Irvin, they have a good backfield, but they have Baker, and that offensive line's solid when they're healthy. But there's injury riddled across the board. But I have the Buccaneers winning this one. I think Quinn Ewers can't get it done against Vita Vea and Lavonte David and Jamal Dean in that secondary down there for the Bucs.
Yeah, I think that Miami will, of all but, and we kind of saw that last week with the Bengals, I feel like they've all but ready to
Yeah, they're just calling it
head
in the air.
south even further from Miami instead of
Hit the
enjoy their
Bahamas.
homes. Yeah, get their paychecks. And I say that, and I like McDaniel and said kudos to them for winning 5 out of 6 and staying competitive. But Tampa Bay, and especially if Seattle, who's the favorite, beats Carolina, then Tampa Bay. So then it comes down to the Week 18 game. So I expect Tampa Bay to still have a little more to play for. Like you said, it's crazy. Like they said, they started off 4-1, 5-1, whatever it was, and then just kind of fall down the stretch. But I feel like, to a certain degree, it's warm. I don't know if it's quite there yet to where he's on the full hot seat or going to be gone. But Bull's playing for potentially his job, and I feel like there's too much talent on the Bucs, and they lost a close game last week to the Panthers. I like the Bucs to take care of business in the battle of the Florida teams.
The Florida Bowl.
Yeah.
All right, that's our upset alert. We got the Seahawks going to Carolina and playing the Panthers. Oh, man. You've been talking about the Panthers all year
I
long.
feel like I got on the
Box.
Panthers bandwagon early, and I'm still riding it here. I think, Seattle kind of, as Denver did last week, getting a huge win against a big team that they got the win against. They beat the Rams, obviously, and now they have to fly to the East Coast to kick off at noon against the dangerous Carolina Panthers team who we've seen beat the Rams 3 weeks ago. And I think it's just the perfect combination of the Panthers have their destiny in front of them. They just beat the Buccaneers to take over that 4 seed in the division. The Seahawks obviously still have stuff to play for, but they beat the Rams, which was the last goal of the year. I mean, obviously you got to take care of the 49ers that Week 18 matchup. Yeah. But I think this game could be kind of overlooked, and you have to fly to the East Coast. So I have the Panthers getting the upset win against the Seattle Seahawks this week.
Yeah, I see all that because we always talk about the 1 o'clock spots and the West Coast going East Coast. And it's like you said, the Rams just kind of laid an egg 3 weeks ago there. But I'm going with the Seahawks. I feel like the Seahawks playing for the 1 seed and kind of got that monkey off their back with the Rams, and just the balance that they bring against Carolina and getting down to the end of the year, really wanting to play for that 1 seed. I like Seattle. I like them to score enough points and to be able to I still feel like their defense is better than even the Rams. Those are 2 of the top 4 defenses, but I feel like their defense is a little bit better than the Rams. And This could be another game that I could see go either way because of Carolina, like you said, Carolina. You did call it from like week 3 on,
Yeah, it's
like
just-
where like anytime Carolina plays at home, I'm going to pick them at home. But I'm
Pays off.
Yeah, it's looking good so far.
more often than not. Yeah, absolutely. But I got the Seahawks. I like the balance, and I've been on the Seahawks Texans bandwagon the last 2 months, and I'm not jumping off now. And I'm concerned about the 1:00 kickoff and the hangover from the big win last Thursday. But getting the mini bye, I also think helps them too. Not playing in a week and a half, so I like the Seahawks to take care of business in a what I anticipate being a close game. But give me the Seahawks.
All right. Last noon game, we have Arizona Cardinals going to Cincinnati, playing the Bengals. I don't think anybody's even watching this game.
No, this game is probably on.
Except for Finn.
This game is literally
Yeah.
the game is on in Phoenix and probably in Cincinnati, and there's probably nowhere else you can find it.
Right.
I'm guessing, but I have the Bengals winning this one. The Cardinals, they've been respectable in all their games. They took Atlanta to 4 quarters last week. I think the Bengals get it done still, just because that Joe Burrow and that offense is just too explosive to stop, and I don't think Jacoby Brissett and Trey and Marvin Harrison Jr. can keep up.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the final score 48-45. But
Yeah. Yeah, I whatever the Bengals are 5-11 now
Yeah.
or 5-10. I like the Bengals just because Cardinals being a bottom 5 team. I said their offenses look different parts making Brissett throw 50 times a game. I said, but their offense has been competitive or puts up good numbers every week. I said, but Cincinnati's just a different animal, and I feel like Joe Burrow at home. Give me Cincinnati.
It's a good time to point out that I never saw a video of Twitch paying off his bet with Finn.
Or vice versa.
yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
seen either one. So
But I'm supposed to pay off mine on Thursday. I'll pay that off, but
Yeah. We'll pay it off.
okay.
Should have done when it was warmer.
Yeah, that's your fault.
do it Christmas morning. It's supposed to be like 70.
There we go. So we roll into the Sunday 3:05 slot. We got the Giants playing the AFC West Raiders. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know what to say about this game. I don't know who's starting quarterback for the Raiders, if Geno's back or if they're letting Kenny still sling it. But I like the Giants in this one purely because of Jackson Dart. They've been competitive in most of their games they played this year, even with only having 2 wins. I think Jackson Dart picks up his 4th or 3rd win of the season against the red hot, absolute dumpster fire Raiders.
shout out to Shannon at the Cannon compound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
No, I mean, a lot better performance from the Raiders last week and a little bit better game for Kenny Pickett. I said I always rooted for Kenny Pickett. I said, but give me the Giants. They said they've been competitive in most of their games this year, and I feel like Jackson Dart has continued to progress even in a disappointing year for them. And I like the Giants to have a little bit more.
Well, this 3:25 game could be a game of the week. I mean, it's Eagles at Buffalo playing the Bills. Both teams got a lot on the line here at this point. So let me start there with you, Box.
I'm still not a big believer in the Eagles. Watched that game entirely, the Commanders-Eagles game last week, and they got the win, but just still it genuinely looks like, and this is obviously from outside looking in, but it genuinely looks like that team just hates each other and nobody wants to play with each other. I mean, that defense is flying around making plays. Cooper DeJean's getting picks, but it just doesn't seem like they want to play. And on the other hand, you have Buffalo, who looks like, I mean, they're playing complete football. Obviously, they're not playing. The wide receivers are kind of becoming a question mark, but Josh Allen's still doing Josh Allen things, not letting his team win or lose. So, I have the Bills in this one. I think the Bills take care of it. I think the Eagles still make the playoffs, obviously, because the rest of their division sucks. And the Cowboys are the next closest, and they have 6 wins.
Yeah.
So, I think they still make the playoffs, but I think they hate each other. I don't think they like playing football together.
Right.
This is what it looks like watching the game. Like it seems like nobody wants
Just
to be
ugly.
there. It just nobody wants to be there.
And it just doesn't make sense because they have a great defense and they have the talent on offense. So it's
Yeah.
just like, but it just seems like it's just sporadic every week. Like you said, they're not. Give me the Bills at home. Buffalo seem to be catching their stride at the right part of the season, and with the inconsistency of Philadelphia, like you said, should still be fine with, only having 5 losses. I said they should have pretty much have the division wrapped up anyway, so it won't hurt them in that regard. But Buffalo's still fighting with New England for that division spot, and I just like Josh Allen to make enough plays. And like I said, I don't trust the Eagles' offense from week to week as good as their defense has been. And just we've seen the last couple games at home, especially at home, against like the Bengals or even the Bucks when they were relevant. Stuff like just there's been something special about Josh Allen in Buffalo in big moments. So give me the Bills.
All right, Sunday Night Football.
Which side note, sorry, that was my preseason Super Bowl pick. Actually, was the Eagles Bills.
Well, it wasn't a bad take.
It still could be, but I don't think in the NFC.
Yeah, it's,
Well, we do have a couple teams there battling out in the NFC. For Sunday Night Football, we have the Chicago Bears traveling out to San Francisco playing the 49ers.
yeah. Probably the best primetime game of the week for sure. I have the Bears winning this one. I think the Bears have been hot. They get an overtime win against the Green Bay Packers. Not dominating them, but sticking around and getting the win late. And then the 49ers obviously beating the Colts, and Brock Purdy played lights out football. And it's, it feels silly now that we were having the conversation, the week before he came back of, hey, if Brock Purdy doesn't play good, how short is his leash for Mac Jones to come back? Because Mac Jones was a serviceable backup, but Brock Purdy showed why he's got paid what he did and why he's the dude out there in San Francisco. But I think the Bears get it done here out there in Santa Clara. Just the defense has been playing good. That run game has been lights out, and then Caleb Williams can move the ball down the field. It'll be interesting to see if he gets Rome Odunze and Luther Burden back. They've both been practicing this week so far, so it'll be interesting to see if they come back to play or not, because that definitely had an impact last week. But I still think the Bears get it done.
It'd be interesting to see if Mac Jones goes someplace else in the offseason.
He's going to go to Minnesota. That's what, every time a quarterback you think his career's dead, he needs to go somewhere. Just send him to Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell will revive his career.
Uh-huh.
You look at Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Before the Daniel Jones
Yeah, he
injury.
was smart to let them both walk out of the building.
Yeah, and now he's stuck with a guy with an alter ego.
Right.
He refers to himself in the third person.
So my first take is I want to take the Bears just because they've shown me enough throughout the year with the Packers win and with the Eagles win, the way they beat the Eagles. I feel like Chicago's legit, and if you would have asked me this pick a week ago, and like I said, I still coming off the high of that and still being the division leaders and being up by a game and a half on Green Bay. But I feel like San Francisco is a sneaky hard place to play. I expected with all the injuries for them to be good, and I'm a big believer in Shanahan. But I keep waiting for San Francisco all year to drop off because of the injuries, and here they are sitting here at 11-4 still. And so I feel like Chicago, to be frank, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but numerous games like the Bengals, like the Packers, like numerous games where they got kind of lucky. Whereas I feel like San Francisco will have the lead late and will make enough plays, and it's in San Francisco, and they'll keep that pressure on the last week, especially if for some reason I'm trying to think. Especially if, again, obviously Chicago's in the driver's seat, but it's also the fact of if for some reason the Panthers actually do upset the Seahawks and gets their fourth loss, and they play each other week 18, and then then it really puts the pressure on the Rams. It's at prime time in San Francisco. I think San Francisco takes care of business because they're, like you talked about at the beginning of the show. I feel like it's the Niners in the NFC and the Jaguars in the AFC that nobody talks about, and you look at them both they're 11-4. They've won 5 straight games. Brock Purdy just threw for 5 touchdowns, and yet nobody talks. And I still kind of after the Rams kind of had a down year because of injuries last year, people kind of I don't want to say forgot about, but I feel like minimized Sean McVay. But it's just to me, Shanahan's that top 6 or 7 head coach, still getting it done this year with all these injuries. And so I have that's my upset. Like I don't know what the line is on that one. I think Chicago was they the favorites,
I'm guessing so, yeah.
but I have San Francisco. And then I said that could be. We don't usually do primetime games as game of the week, but that was another one I thought could be a game of the week just because. I mean, yeah, we're talking about two teams that are. It's because the Bears are 11-4 as well, so 11-4 teams. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
So we wrap up week 17 on Monday Night Football. We have the Rams going out to Atlanta, down there playing the Falcons. Who wants to start this one out? I mean, all right, Bob. All right, Twitch.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna keep it simple. I said, with, which means the Falcons will probably win. They almost let me down even last week against the Cardinals. I finally pick them again.
Back and forth.
Yeah,
Love
they
hate.
beat the Bills, but they lose 30-0 to the Panthers, and we go over this every week. They lose to this team, but I feel like the Rams are too consistent. They're way too good of a team. It's like, and I feel like the Rams take care of business. They don't. I feel like they shut down Robinson, make him one-dimensional, and I feel like their offense moves the ball up and down on Atlanta. And same thing, I feel like they keep pace, especially if San Francisco were to, or I'm sorry, if Seattle were to lose, then I don't know. I just give me the Rams. I don't want to overthink it. Matthew Stafford, to me, my MVP would probably be Matthew Stafford. So
Yeah, same. I think Matt Stafford has earned that MVP to say, or for sure. I feel like it's going to be an interesting Monday Night Football game because, like you said, the Falcons have last time they were on Monday Night Football, they 30-0'd the Buffalo Bills. And obviously, these last two games are must-wins, but they're against the Falcons and the Cardinals. And I don't see... I was over here overthinking. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna change my pick to the Falcons. I was thinking about it, and I was like, nope, I think the Rams are going to overcome the Falcons' curse.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you have to go play there in the Mercedes-Benz Dome and all that crap. But I think the Rams, the offense has been too good to let the other team or let the Falcons upset them. I think it might be closer than we think. I think Kirko might throw for another 300 yards just because it's Kirk Cousins and him and Kyle Pitts have been kind of connected, and Bijan's been obviously playing lights out football all year for that crappy team. So, but I don't think the Falcons defense can get a stop on Puka Nacua and that team, especially coming off the week they just had and losing the way they did.
Right.
But I was definitely overthinking that one though. It almost came out of my mouth and I was picking the Falcons just because of how it's been this year. But that concludes our pick for Twitch and Box Sports Talk Week 17 of the
Christmas
NFL
edition.
Yeah, Christmas edition.
Yeah.
Hope everybody has a great Christmas. Hope y'all see your relatives and have a good time. We'll definitely have a good time on Christmas, hanging out there at Arrowhead for the game. No matter, the punishment or all that stuff. At the end of the day, it's just about hanging out with who you care about and people you enjoy spending time around. The sign just adds an extra layer of excitement for me personally. It's my own Christmas present to myself. And it's the Broncos' Christmas present to me. So,
Yeah.
excited to go to the game with the guys and watch the game and just enjoy the environment for sure. Hope everybody has a great holidays. Hope all your bets hit. Hope hope our picks go well this week, obviously. But that concludes our Week 17 broadcast. Be on the lookout for a state of the teams and the posting of the sign.